and I am the acting president of the Devon and District Chamber of Commerce. The Devon Chamber is a nonpartisan business organization that represents over 70 businesses in Devon and the region, and is proud to be hosting this public forum. The Devon Chamber would like to thank you for your attendance tonight in this irregular format, and we would like to thank those involved for their understanding. The Devon and District Chamber of Commerce acknowledges that we are hosting this forum on Treaty 6 territory. The public forum is an opportunity for the community to ask questions to all municipal candidates to help voters gain an informed opinion of who they would like to support on October 18th, Election Day. The forum will be moderated by Mr. Ian McCormack, President of Strategic Steps, Inc. Mr. McCormack is a certified management consultant who has a broad range of experience, including work in government, not-for-profit, and for-profit domains. He is a published author in areas of good governance, local governments, and business planning. Strategic Steps and its associates focus on complex independent work with local government realm. With that, I would like to welcome Mr. Ian McCormack. Thank you.
Well, thanks very much, Trish. It's a real honor to be asked to moderate this forum this evening. However, you're not here to see me, so let's just get on with it. And we'll spend the first 2 hours or so with the candidates for council, and we'll spend the last hour or so with the candidates for mayor. And we'll take a little bit of a break between the two sessions. We have got some questions that have come in already. If you would like to ask a question, please put it into the chat or into the Q&A that's available to you. Just a few things before we start. As Trish had mentioned, this is an unusual format. That we do certainly have some limitations with Zoom, that we are looking for a little bit of grace and some patience from amongst all members here today as we try and work our way through the entire list of questions that come up to give everybody an equal chance to present their opinions. Somebody had asked earlier if the forum is being recorded. Yes, it is in fact being recorded. Just a note for council candidates. I think many or most of you may have seen the sheet, the run sheet already today, but we're limiting comments from council candidates to 1 minute each, just because we have so many candidates. We've broken the group of candidates for council into 3 different groups based on order. I believe you've those 2. The first group, however, just to go through them quickly, not all of whom are here right now. In random order, what we call on Group A, it is Brian Bowles, Anita Fisher, Tanya Hugh, Girk Dehauna, please correct me on that one if I'm wrong, and Kayla Fitzpatrick. The second group, which is Group B, is Chris Fish, Mike Hanley, Stacey May, Serena Grimson, Eric Barba, and Andrew Wesa or Bessa. Group C, the third group, is Justin Porter, Ben Gronberg, Chad Griffith, Andre Grondin, Chris Belke, and Pat Beulo. As we call on the questions, I will ask the person to answer and then tell you who kind of is up next as well. The questions can be directed from people who are attending. Questions can be directed to individual council members, each individual council candidates, or to candidates generally. And we will work our way through this list of A, B, and C. And so not every candidate will be answering every question. We will theme questions too around various topics to get as many different topics as we can in front of the candidates. We are receiving the questions again through the chat, through the Q&A function that you've got in front of you. A couple of notes, just decorum type notes, just for those of you who are asking questions. If your question is a gotcha type question, it may not get asked. And just asking everybody to be respectful or be removed. We do have the ability to remove people from this. So that's how we will go. I would ask the council candidates to mute yourselves except when you're speaking, just to avoid the kind of background noise that you've got, we may otherwise have. We have 17 candidates for council and 4 for mayor today. You may notice on your screen that one of the images is just a color block. That tells you that you have a minute for council candidates. Anyway, you have a minute to speak. At 30 seconds, that block will change from green to orange, and it will say 30 seconds on it. At 0 time, it will turn to red, and we will ask you to rapidly wrap up your comments, or we will mute you and move on to the next person. With that in mind, we are going to start now with council candidate introductions, and we will go through the entire list of this case, going through from groups A, B, and C. Trish, who you saw at the beginning from the chamber, is going to monitor the timing, and she will also be monitoring some of the questions and answers as they come in as well. So each candidate will get 1 minute to introduce themselves, and that's how we'll go. Before we start candidates, does anybody have questions about format? Seeing none, I would ask council candidate from A, Brian Bowles, who will be followed by Anita Fisher. Mr. Bowles, please unmute yourself and please go ahead. Okay, I see an icon, but no person. Oh, there he is.
Oh, I haven't shown my picture yet.
There we go. Now's your time. Time to shine.
1 minute.
1 minute going now.
I, Brian Bowles, put my name forward for Devon Council because I believe we're at a critical point for our future growth. For the next 4 years, we need to make sound strategic choices, balancing building new facilities and maintaining our existing services, plus grow our tax base. To be sustainable, Devon needs to attract industry and business. My leadership as CEO for Leduc County helped contribute to many successes. We had major housing subdivision developments, large industrial developments at the airport, Nisku Business Park. We established sound financial policies and strategic direction. And we also looked at regional cooperation to deliver services. This knowledge and experience gives me the opportunity to contribute to a strong Devon Council. Volunteerism. I have volunteered in Devon for several years. I've proven my leadership in many projects and positions. In things like building the arena initial expansion, ball diamond development, outdoor rink construction, coaching minor ball, former coach and president of minor hockey, the food bank. I was a board member. I served on Devon Days, Subdivision Appeal Board, Youth Justice, and others. In closing, over the next 4 years, I believe council must develop better communications with our citizens, develop improved long-term financial strategies, construct facilities to meet the needs of seniors and families, and increase the tax base by attracting families, industry, and businesses. If I am elected, I will work hard for the citizens of Devon. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bowles. My understanding is that Anita Fisher is having some technical difficulties. We can come back to her, in which case we go to Tanya Hugh, who had no advance warning. I apologize for that. And Girk Danoa after that. Candidate Hugh.
Evening. I grew up in Devon, went to school here, met my husband here, and we have stayed to raise our family here. We have 4 girls, ages 12, 14, 17, and 19. We are an active family who values sport, culture, and community. I have and will continue to support initiatives that keep people in Devon and offer residents greater opportunities for employment, education, and to be healthy and active. I've been on council for the last 8 years and are known to be detail-oriented, thorough, and very prepared. I ask a lot of questions because I want to ensure I have as much information as possible before making a decision. I believe in smart, balanced growth and want to continue with increasing commercial industrial development. This will diversify our economy, create jobs, and remove some of the tax burden from our residents. I realize there's a cost to growth, but we have to invest in our community. We just need to be smart about it. I want to continue building on our Indigenous relationships and reconciliation. We have had great success here, but it is only the start. I believe that one of the best ways to strengthen our community is to engage, empower, and support citizens in order to create vibrancy and connection. I am also a strong proponent in leading by example. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hugh. Moving on, and please tell me how you pronounce your last name, Mr. Danoa, and then we'll follow that with Kayla Fitzpatrick.
It's Danoa, just the way it's spelled, nothing fancy to it. Okay, so I'm good to go.
You're good to go.
Excellent. So as an employee at Tim Hortons in the past, and as a business owner here in Devon, I have been building long-lasting and trusting relationships since day one. I have been in Devon for 4 years. My time as a coach of local youth sports and my financial donations have directly impacted the residents of Devon. My name is Girk. I'm here to continue making an impact in the lives of all Devon residents. Give me the opportunity to serve you, Devon. As the town council, if elected, I'll be very transparent with the community about everything that town council is doing. I will take ownership of all decisions we make. I will do all the work with the utmost integrity and continue to give back to my community. Find my name on that ballot on October 18th and give me that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Noah. We move on with Kayla Fitzpatrick, followed by Chris Fish. Ms. Fitzpatrick.
Hi, everyone. So a bit about myself and my platform. I grew up in Devon and went to all the schools here. I moved right after high school, and then I was in Edmonton for 8 years. We finally bought back in Devon, and I'm currently a stay-at-home mom. My career background is in an office setting. I've done everything in an office, from payroll to accounts payable, receivable, to assisting managers. My husband and parents are also small business owners, so I know that it is essential to town growth that we keep the town business relationship strong. Running this year was so important to me. I think that now more than ever, residents of the community need to know that their voices are being heard. I've been trying to stay engaged with everyone, and I intend to continue to engage. I want everyone to know that I'm fully committed to investing time in everything I do. I'm willing to learn, ask questions, and above all, be held accountable for all that I do. This community deserves an elected official that is supportive of everyone from all walks of life, from kids to seniors and everyone in between.
Thank you, Ms. Fitzpatrick. We move on with Chris Fish, followed by Mike Hanley. Ms. Fish.
Thank you very much. First off, I'd like to say welcome to all the attendees that are here tonight, paying attention to what we have to say. I have been a part of this community. I've lived here for the better part of 40 years. I actually worked for the town of Devon for 25. Part of that, and most of that, was managing the parks, the pool, and the arena. I've spent the last 4 years, my first term with council. There was a lot of things that this council was making transitions and moving forward with, and I wanted to be a part of that. And I still believe that there's a lot more that still has to be done. We have a beautiful community here, and we want to make sure that the community that we have is Devon and it stays Devon. And we want to be, we've got to make sure that we keep this a sustainable and smart growth, and not be overdeveloped and become one of the surrounding municipalities, or make the mistakes that other municipalities are making. So again, I would like to be still part of this for the next 4 years, to be that active voice and to make sure that we're moving this in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fish. We move on with Mike Hanley, followed by Stacy May. Mr. Hanley.
Please take a second to acknowledge with me that today, October 4th, is a National Day of Action for missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Devon's 2021 municipal election is your chance to reinvigorate our town with your vote. Devon needs to attract, retain, and invest in new residents and businesses, making sure it's easier than ever to live, work, and do business in Devon. We need to balance and stabilize property taxes, invigorate and refresh our downtown and industrial areas, and achieve more value for every tax dollar spent. We need to continue to grow as a friendly, welcoming, inclusive community that balances safety and prosperity with freedom from undue interference and government control. We need to continue to make investments that allow Devon to follow its own path without being overrun by the growth and competing interests of surrounding municipalities. Thank you again for taking this time to explore my ideas for Devon's exciting, inclusive, and prosperous future.
Thank you, Mr. Hanley. We move on with Ms. May, followed by Serena Grimson.
Thank you so much. My name is Stacy May, and I'm here today asking for your support for re-election to Devon's Town Council. Over the past 2 terms, I have worked diligently to show that I have the capacity for true leadership and accountability. I am not afraid to ask hard questions, and I'm not afraid to disagree to make sure that all of the avenues are being covered and making sure that we have the best information possible. Over the next term, I think it's really important that we drill down into the projects that we already have, making sure that these are actually completed to the full capacity of their potential. I plan to work really hard to continue to work with the community towards engagement, working on advisory groups and focus groups, trying to make sure that the community has an opportunity to feel involved. I feel that's something we've seriously lacked in the last term, and I'm really excited for the opportunity to bring it back. So today, again, my name is Stacy May, and I am here asking for your support in this year's election. So please remember, vote May on election day.
Thank you, Ms. May. We move on to Serena Grimson, followed by Eric Barba. Ms. Grimson.
Hi, my name is Serena Grimson, and if elected, I'll be representing your voice at the table that'll be fueled by the love and passion I have towards our town. In a diverse population of citizens, we need a diverse representation of members at the table to represent the many voices in town. Community involvement is my ultimate goal, and through my active presence in town, my passion for my community, and longing to make Devon a more diverse and inclusive place, I feel I'm the right person to help amplify and unify the voices of our citizens. Everyone has a different view of what their Devon is, and I'm here to listen to what your Devon looks like to you and will help you make that a reality. I want everyone to see our town with the love that I have for it. What I would ultimately bring to the table is our love for our town, my passion for its citizens, and a sense of community to help amplify and unify the voices of its residents. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Our next candidate is Eric Barba, followed by Andrew Wesa. Mr. Barba.
Hello, my name is Eric Barba, and I have worked in Devon for the last 22 years and lived in this town for at least 14 of those years. I'm married and have 2 kids that we've raised together here in Devon. I'm running for a city council because I want to get a chance to make a little change on this community. I would like to work towards creating a better community by pushing for growth that will benefit everyone, not just specific ages. I will work to improve our public consultations and communications between the community and council, as this is very, very important. At the same time, working towards a safer community for all of us. I will commit to do my part in making sure that we do the best for our community, as well as make whoever is sitting on council accountable for their decisions that are being made, and that includes me. I would like to ask for your support in this coming election, so please vote Barba. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barba. Move on to Mr. Wesa, followed by Justin Porter.
Thanks. I'm Andrew Wesa. I'm running for town council. I've been in town for 10 years. I'd like to see our community and council, or our community, grow and thrive. I believe our biggest issue that we are missing is community engagement and community involvement on the council level. To that end, I would like to see far more community engagement with the residents of Devon. On growth, I think we need to revitalize downtown and do strategic, sustainable growth to not become our neighbors. And I just want to make Devon the best it can be for every single resident.
Thanks, Mr. Wesa. We move on then to Justin Porter, followed by Ben Goldberg.
Thank you. I've been born and raised here. Began raising my own young family here. My wife and I, we have 4 kids. They've also gotten the opportunity to grow up in this wonderful little town. I'm running for re-election to bring transparency and communication to the council and the community. It is adamant we continue to bring honesty and allow individuals to express their concerns, questions on behalf of the community. Developing a foundation built on clarity and trust will ensure equitable decision-making that is in the best interest of the entire community. In addition, I believe when making decisive choices, we must consider all ages. As a community, we have to grow together, making decisions that benefit everyone. After my experience on council for the last 8 years, there's numerous objectives I would like to see come to light. In the coming years, I hope to see continual growth for the town of Devon. It is imperative that we create new opportunities for business growth and development, all while growing our economy and sustaining what we have. I'd also like to maintain our financial stability that has been upheld from previous councils. It is crucial to initiate
Please wrap it up, Mr. Porter.
Stable financial barrier that allows progressive opportunities for the future of Devon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Porter. On now with Mr. Gronberg, followed by Chad Griffith.
Hello, my name is Ben Gronberg. I'm running for council. I grew up in this town and I found my first job here, and I'm really thankful to continue to live here. Just to get ahead of the questions, I am 25, just for anyone asking. I've heard that a lot at the doors. I worked 6 years at the Devon Outdoor Pool as a lifeguard and eventually worked my way into management, pool management there. In management, I really enjoyed working closely with town administration, which nurtured in me a desire to be involved in town council. I have volunteered extensively, including children and youth programming, as well as various committees. I am currently a registered nurse in the emergency department. I'm passionate about Devon, and I feel like I have a lot to offer from a younger perspective. I'm looking forward to this forum where we can exchange visions for the future of Devon and hear from you guys as well.
Thank you, Mr. Gronberg. We move on now to Chad Griffith, followed by Andre Grondin. Mr. Griffith.
Thank you, Ian, and the rest of the candidates. I was born and raised in Devon, with the exception of 2 years in Houston. I've spent all my life in town. I've created a small business within Devon to try and bring more employment opportunities for youth and hope to bring more small businesses to town. There are many great ideas that have come from the rest of the candidates, and I think that working collaboratively to come to creative solutions on some of our major issues is something that all of the candidates can bring to the table. I hope I can earn your vote, and I guess that's it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Griffith. Mr. Grondin, followed by Chris Belke. Andre, you're muted. I don't know if you know that. Had to happen to somebody sometime.
Okay, there we go.
There we go.
Hey guys, my name is Andre. I've been in town for 2 years, 2 and a bit years now. I've got 2 young children. I'm running for council in the upcoming election, with a focus on fiscal responsibility, transparency, and communications. There's some things that I think that we could really benefit from. So that to me is done by kind of creating spaces for new businesses to thrive. I've run a business since 2016, and my volunteer experience, I volunteer with the fire hall. I worked a lot with Rotary back home, worked with the business improvement areas back in Ontario, and kind of know what it takes to create spaces for businesses to grow in and that create kind of a community environment. And so that's me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grondin. We move on then with Mr. Belke, followed by Pat Beulo.
Hello, I'm Chris Belke, and I believe that my municipal experience and expertise make me an excellent candidate for your town council. I'm currently a consultant providing governance and legislative services and advice to municipalities and nonprofit organizations. For 9 years, I was the Chief Legislative Officer for the City of St. Albert and was the Manager of Municipal Advisory Services at Alberta Municipal Affairs. I've been a volunteer and board member in Devon, and I served on council from 1998 to 2010. Altogether, this gives me a unique perspective that I think would make me valuable on our council. To be the most effective, a council needs to work as a team and work well with town administration. When I was on council, we acted respectfully and professionally and achieved a lot. I believe that council as a team and in consultation with the community needs to establish clear priorities for the town. Clear priorities lead to better planning and better strategies. I can be a part of the council that you want to build a better future for our town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Belke. Now, Pat Beulo, followed by Anita Fisher.
Hi, my name is Pat Beulo. I'm a retired firefighter, 32 years with Edmonton Fire Department. I retired as a captain, a senior captain. I've been living in Devon for 15 years. I've raised a family here. I also was a business owner here, being part owner of Devon Total Fitness, the original Devon Total Fitness, and we moved once there, and also a personal trainer there. I've always volunteered. I've been heavily active in Muscular Dystrophy Burn Treatment Society, nonprofit hockey schools. I've coached in minor hockey. I actually was with the executive of Devon Minor Hockey for 4 years, 2 years as president. I think my platform would be I like to see Devon grow. I want to see it as a destination place. I want it somewhere where people come enjoy our trails, which they already do, and our mountain bike trails, and then also enjoy our town and spend a little money in our town. Again, by growing, I want to see a larger tax base. I want to see young families come here. I believe in this rec center. I understand right now that maybe we have to have it delayed because of rising costs, but I'd like to see that maybe we could find funds.
Please come to a conclusion, Mr. Beulo.
Hopefully I can get on there and work well with the team. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Fisher, you're welcome. You're our final candidate for opening comments for the evening. You're muted as well. Ms. Fisher, you're muted. There you go.
Hi, I'm Anita Fisher. I'd like to share my opinion on where the incoming council needs to spend its time. It's time for financial responsibility, holding the line on further debt, looking for savings and efficiency within our existing budget. It's time for transparency and accessibility. It's time for effective communication. It's time to engage property owners and businesses to invigorate our downtown core. It's time to do our homework on the rec complex, establish accurate capital maintenance and operation costs, and educate the public on those costs. It's time for truth and reconciliation, diversity and inclusion. It's time to protect our national assets, embrace tourism, and plan for a diversity of user groups in our river valley. It's time to encourage existing developers, attract new developers to move forward with well-planned commercial, residential, and industrial growth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. That covers everybody the first time through. We now will move on to the question segment of our question and answer segment of our forum. And as I mentioned before, to those people who are engaged behind the scenes as participants and watching, please submit your questions, and we are tracking those, and we will pose them to the candidates. Unless they are specifically noted to be to a candidate, we are just going to go through the list of candidates here by group, and we will ask the questions that way. So with that in mind, and starting with Group A, acknowledge you each have 1 minute to respond to this question. So Group A will be candidates Bowles, Fisher, Hugh, Danoa, and Fitzpatrick in that order. The question you will get: to be an inclusive community, racism, bullying, or other forms of discrimination should be actively opposed with loud and clear messaging from council. Do you think this is a priority for our community? And do you have any thoughts on how council could support any local business, social profits, or other entity dealing with this if they face it? So with that in mind, Mr. Bowles, we'll start with you for a minute.
There we go.
There we
Can you
go.
hear me?
Yep, got you now. Thank you.
Yeah, inclusiveness is very important. Council as leaders, there's special days for various groups that we can make proclamations, whether it's in the newspaper, do acts within the community to recognize the various groups. Pride Day, doing the intersection and so forth, flags and things like that are very important. One area that we could really work on is if there's any graffiti or any racism comments that are in the community, that we make sure we clean them up as soon as possible, and to eliminate those kind of things. And as far as messages to the community about to be inclusive, we need to be understanding of all sectors of the community. Those would be some of the few things I would do.
Thank you, Mr. Bowles. We'll move on to Ms. Fisher, followed by Ms. Hugh. Anita, you're muted. There we go.
There are a variety of things that we can do to work on the issue of inclusivity. I think inclusivity is exactly that. It's inclusive of our youth, of our handicapped individuals, of our Indigenous. We need to work with our school boards in regards to bullying and provide programming through our FCSS. I think they do a great job on some of their programming. I'd like to work with groups like Local to interact with the kids and see how they would like to address the issue. I, of course, would like to promote and work with our Indigenous partners. Some of the events that have been held have been absolutely fabulous, and I'd like to continue with those. I'd like to address mobility issues within the community. It's been quite apparent by a number of residents that this is an issue that council needs to look at and address as far as infrastructure insufficiencies. So yeah, it's endless. Our seniors need to be involved. Our community needs to be involved. Council needs to be involved. It's going to take a community effort to
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. For those of you who don't see on the center of their screen someplace the color block that we're following for the 1 minute, you can just click and drag on it, or you could right click and pin it if you like. So just potentially that might help you. So thank you, Ms. Fisher. Ms. Hugh, followed by Mr. Denoa. Ms. Hugh.
Hello, thank you very much. I think that we have made a great deal of progress in this community already for diversity and inclusivity. However, we still have many leaps and bounds to go. I can see just by looking at the candidates here tonight, we have a broad choice for our community in diversity. So that's a great step right there. The previous council actually had put into, we're looking to start a board, inclusivity and diversity board. However, we did not get enough participants as of yet. So I think we need to engage the community a little bit more, inform them of these boards, help them get on them. I agree that we need to work with our other partners, including local youth. They have a huge spectrum of diversity and are always very inclusive. We can learn from them and teach the others. I believe council itself can lead by example. We can participate, we can encourage these events, we can plan more events. I do believe we do need to talk more with the businesses to see if there's ways that we can promote inclusivity in their business as well. So
thank you, Ms. Hugh. Moving on to Mr. Denoa, followed by Ms. Fitzpatrick.
As Tanya mentioned, it starts with the core group of people here, the 17 candidates. You know, the town has the opportunity to elect a very diversified team. And being a minority in Canada, I've been here just over 25 years. I was 12 years old when I came to Canada. And what I've realized is, doesn't matter what it is, it all boils down to communication and having an open forum or people that you can trust, where you can ask the tough questions. I have built those relationships in this town where people can come ask any tough questions about me. And I want to build that for everybody as well. And it's also about creating a safe space where they can come to, and without judgment, they can ask those tough questions. Another opportunity is, can we invite different cultural groups to come into our town to showcase their awesomeness, you know, what their culture represents? Can we have a little weekend get together for everybody in town to kind of enjoy?
Thank you very much, Mr. Denoa. Our final candidate on this particular question is Ms. Fitzpatrick.
So inclusivity and feeling safe should be the town's #1 priority, because it takes people from all walks of life to make the community. If anyone ever feels unsafe or not part of the community, I want them to know that I or the council will be a safe space and will be an ally to them. And that we will try and find a resolution as soon as we can for them. I also want the different communities to know that they can reach out to us and maybe tell us what they need, because we may not know exactly what they need for us to make them feel better, make them feel safe.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fitzpatrick. That covers our first question, and thank you for keeping to time limits. Our second question then will go to Group B. So in order of answers, it will be Chris Fish, followed by Mike Hanley, Stacey May, Serena Grimson, Eric Barba, and Andrew Wisa. The question we're asking here is, a number of municipalities have moved away from using photo radar to a more visible presence, where police patrol and issue tickets with demerits. What are the views of the potential and existing councillors on this issue? So we'll start that with you for Mr. Fish, if you want to tackle that one.
Thank you very much. That is actually a great question. I think what council has done over the last 4 years with Photo Radar has definitely changed how the program is working in Devon. Yes, there are communities out there that have moved away from the Photo Radar system. But based on the program that we had to the program that we have, there is still a little bit more work that I believe we should be dealing with. Again, I'm of the belief that if we are continuing with the photo radar, it's keeping them in the smart places, again, in the school zones where we want to keep people at a decent speed. We don't want people racing through with the children at playground zones. Also, by marking the vehicles so that people know that they're there. I'm of the belief that if you see them and you continue to speed through, that's on you. But if we're choosing to hide these vehicles, that's on council. And it's not something that I believe we should be doing. I think it's a program that has its benefits. It's a program that helps benefit the community. And we've got to make sure it's there for the right reason. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fish. Mr. Hanley, followed by Ms. May. Mr. Hanley.
Thank you. Fantastic question. The province is making it easier by weaning small towns off the revenue somewhat by taking a bigger piece of the pie themselves. So we're already seeing that the town's less reliant on it than it used to be. I really like some of the educational tools I've seen put up, the flashing lights, things like that. There's strong evidence to prove that these work better than the tickets in many instances. And I also hope that we can respect the value of being pulled over in person. People that commit other crimes tend to speed disproportionately and are very often caught by police officers doing traffic enforcement. And I think this is a fantastic opportunity to improve the way we're doing policing by catching these speeders, especially if they're doing other things.
Thanks, Mr. Hanley. Ms. May, followed by Ms. Grimson.
Thank you so much. So photo radar has often been a really contentious issue that's often discussed by community members. And fact of the matter is that there is a generous amount of income that is generated by this program. Currently, we average about $250,000 coming in terms of photo radar revenue. That number at one point was as high as $800,000 a year. So Mr. Hanley is correct in saying that the province has absolutely significantly reduced the funding strategy in terms of who gets what. That being said, that money goes directly into our community safety reserve, which allows us to install the safety lights and the blinking lights, and we use that to do our trail lighting and things of that nature. So personally, I'm not a huge fan of photo radar. I personally would like to separate out the contract to get rid of the red light and stop sign photo radar, as I don't feel it's an effective tool to actually curb that particular behavior. But I do support continuing photo radar along our highway corridor and through our school zones. In order to accomplish any of this, it's a really big importance that we work with our RCMP, with our CPOs, and with our contracted photo radar people.
Thanks, Ms. May. Ms. Grimson, followed by Mr. Barba.
Hi. Yeah, it seems like photo radar is the hot topic every single election. I personally don't think it's as effective as the others had mentioned as actually being pulled over when you're speeding. I do know that the province is taking a larger cut now of what photo radar they get versus what we get. I understand that we do use this money for improvements and around town, but it does need to be sort of reworked and just a little bit more to go when it comes to that sort of stuff. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Grimson. Next up is Mr. Barba, followed by Mr. Wisa.
I think photo radar, the way that it is, it's improved from what it was before, but I do believe that it needs some work. It does not deter people from speeding in certain places. I know that even in our communities here, you see kids and people driving like maniacs. You know, some of that cost should be going also, or that money collected should be going into enforcing some of the speeders, not just on the specific locations, but all throughout town. There's kids all over. There's specific places that kids play outside, and you see people running like maniacs through here. So that needs to change, and that money for the photo radar can help, maybe help with this cost. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. Mr. Wisa, your comment on this. You're the last one to respond to this question.
Thanks for the question. I, like mostly candidates, agree. Photo radar is not an effective tool for slowing people down or for speeding. When you get a ticket in the mail 2 or 3 weeks later, you basically forget what you've done, and it's just not effective. I would like to see more enforcement by the CPOs and the RCMP in the critical zones like playground zones and school zones and the downtown core, where there is a higher safety issue. I do think the flashing signs and lights are more beneficial than the photo radar. And again, I would just like to see more actual enforcement with actual consequences through demerits. And as Mr. Hanley said, often when somebody's pulled over, you will find they have warrants or something else. So I do not think photo radar is effective, and I would like to see better enforcement through the CPOs and peace officers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weiss. So that covers question number 2. The third question we have will go to Group C, and they will be responding in this order: Justin Porter, Ben Gronberg, Chad Griffith, Andre Grondin, Chris Belke, and Pat Beulo. The question for you is, the Devon Cross Country Ski Club is sharing with the Devon Golf Club grounds. It's been a wonderful outdoor experience. We would like to know, what are the views regarding the issue of a possibility of bike owners sharing the Devon Cross Country ski trails? Thank you for your time. Mr. Porter, I'm going to put that onto you first, please, followed by Mr. Gronberg.
Thank you. As this was just recently spoke of at Town Council, basically the golf course is a multi-use in wintertime recreation area for anybody, for all groups, whether it be cross-country ski, snowshoers, walkers, fat bikers, you name it. With the enhancement of COVID and the amount of people down there, it became apparent that more than just cross-country skiers would like to utilize that beautiful area. We've also got a business or two in town that, you know, could benefit from it as well. So I would like to give it a trial run for a year and see how this all pans out, and if we can all play in the sandbox politely and correctly.
Thank you very much, Mr. Porter. Mr. Gronberg, followed by Mr. Griffith.
Yeah, I think that if anything we've learned this past year and a half is that parks have become more important now than ever. I was just talking with someone yesterday at our meet and greet in the Lions Campground about this, and they posed the question about the Devon cross country skiing being there for a long time, and that that was going to be a hard challenge. And a question I kind of posed to them was, where's the middle ground? And I would really like to, if I were to be elected, would be to sit down with all of the players who want to use that space and see if we can kind of figure out a framework to try and make sure that there is a middle ground where we can have all groups being used. Maybe that means effective signing. Maybe that means areas that were used by one group initially is now being used by both, or whatever the solution is. I'm sure that we can figure it out if we all sit down together.
Thanks, Mr. Gronberg. Followed, Mr. Griffith, followed by Mr. Grondin.
Thank you. As Ben said, the Nordic Ski Club does have a proud history here in Devon. It's, I believe, been in place for about 60 years. So I think there is opportunity to work creatively with the groups to come up with a solution that works for everybody, and potentially connect with surrounding communities to make it a larger space or more available to those that are coming to the town.
Thank you very much. Mr. Grondin, followed by Mr. Belke.
Yeah, I mean, part of what attracted us to Devon was the river valley. You know, access to the river valley. You can kind of walk down there with the kids, and it's to me like the most you know, beautiful area in you know, in the capital region, and we have to kind of you know, improve our infrastructure for more people, because we are going to see more bikers. I mean, this summer we saw a lot more people at the beaches, a lot more people at the parks, a lot more boats. And I think there is room for everybody. There's a lot of areas with much higher density, and everybody's able to get along, and share the space that they have. And so I think we just have to kind of sit down, and bring, all the stakeholders together and take advantage of the fact that we do have people coming from out of town, and even, local people getting interested in new activities, and, kind of figure out how we can help our businesses benefit from that, and benefit from the increased traffic from both sides.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grondin. Mr. Belke, followed by Mr. Beulo.
This is a very interesting suggestion. Certainly the cross-country ski area down on the golf course has been very successful. A lot of people maybe aren't aware of how many people have been using those trails and how many people have been attracted to Devon to use those trails this past year, as more people are trying to get outside. The challenge, of course, is that using the same trails for skiing and for biking may not be compatible. And so being able to fit both into the same areas is the challenge. I think one of the things that we could explore that might help it is to expand the area rather than trying to share the tighter area that's existing. Although it's not easy, I think it would be worth the town taking the time to open negotiations with Imperial Oil to see if we can add some recreational uses to the land that they own. They have the fenced in former gas plant area, which may or may not be possible, but they also have the quarter section immediately south of that, which is accessible and might be something that might be suitable for adding some trails to as well for skiers or bikers.
Thank you, Mr. Belke. Mr. Beulo, as the final candidate on this topic. And you're muted, Mr. Beulo.
How about now?
It's better now. We should have some sort of candidate bingo for the participants.
There you go. I kind of agree with Mr. Porter. We have 3 groups there that are actually important. There's a lot of people coming to Devon to use those trails. I know that cross-country skiers aren't going to want their trails damaged by big fat bikers or bikes and snowshoers. If we can facilitate getting the 3 groups together and actually speaking with them and seeing what would be a possible solution that would work for all 3. They're the ones using it. They're the ones who should have a say in it.
Thank you very much. So that covers our first round of questions. We'll now move into the second round, starting again with Group A of candidates. However, we're going to go in reverse order this time because you had different amounts of time to think about your responses to the questions. So for this question, we're going to go with Kayla Fitzpatrick, Girk Danoa, Tanya Hugh, Anita Fisher, and then Brian Bowles. So the question for you is, what is the single highest priority or highest need of our town, and what will you do about it? So with that in mind, Ms. Fitzpatrick, if you'd like to comment on
that. For me personally, community engagement is the biggest priority. The council and the mayor are elected officials to be the representation of the town. And I find that a lot of the time, people in town don't know what's going on or haven't heard anything from the town. And I know they have used, social media as a great platform in the newspaper, but some people don't have social media. And so I find that there should be maybe a different way to sort of engage with the people.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fitzpatrick. Next up is Mr. Danoa, followed by Ms. Hugh. Mr. Danoa.
I know we definitely have a really good advantage with people. Me being a very visible member in the community, I want to build that trust with every single individual in town where they can bring their ideas forward. If there is 500 people that have accepted, hey, Girk is a comfortable person I can speak with, I can discuss ideas with him, and 20 of those people or 50 of those people have the same thought process, we as Devon Town Council, we need to focus on those priorities. How can we bring joy to the people of Devon? And it all starts with having that trust and being visible in the community to say, hey, I can approach him. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Noah. Ms. Hugh, followed by Ms. Fisher.
That definitely is a tough question, the number one priority, because there are a combination of them for myself anyways. I guess I will take a different avenue, and my highest priority is to increase our industrial commercial development. We've started that ball rolling. I think that we've definitely made progress, and we've got a lot more we can do. This, of course, will diversify our tax base. It's going to allow for us to create other possible infrastructure or different events, things like that for our community, as we will have more tax funds. So that is what I'm going to go with, but thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hugh. Ms. Fisher, followed by Mr. Bowles.
Well, I'm definitely going to agree with Tanya Hugh on this is a really large question. But I'm going to choose communication and community engagement. I think it's the key to every single issue that council will face now and in the future. I think that we need to figure out how to engage with the community, both as far as residents and businesses, to promote growth, to address safety issues, community enhancements, those types of things. There isn't a single thing that the town of Devon undertakes that does not require communication and community engagement. So that would be my choice.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. The final response to this goes to Mr. Bowles, please.
Thank you for the opportunity. I have to go with communications. You know, I find that a lot of people in town just don't understand what's going on, and they need to understand that we got to grow, that we need industrial, we need to have more housing. And if we could communicate to people why we need it and what we're doing, for example, at the Ball Diamonds, there's like 7 lots out there. People don't understand what's going on and the need for industry. So we need to get better communications. Our paper is terrible. We have to get multiple communication tools, whether it's monthly newsletters out, counselors talking to the people, but our citizens need to understand why we're doing whatever we're doing. And then they'll get behind it and behind the decision making. And I think then you'd have a whole lot more support when we take on major projects. And those major projects need to be more industry, more business. And so again, communications is a key that everyone can understand why we're doing what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bowles. That concludes this question. The next question will go to Group B, and like A, we will do it in reverse order of last time. That means Andrew Wiesa goes first, followed by Eric Barba, Serena Grimson, Stacey May, Mike Hanley, and Chris Fish. The question for you then is, what are your thoughts on the long-term sustainability of our municipal natural gas utility? The recent water treatment plant upgrade is an example of required asset renewal to maintain these type of services. Mr. Wiesa, do you have a comment on this, please?
That's actually a great question, and I think it's actually very sustainable. I've had the pleasure of working with Public Works and the town on doing some upgrades to the natural gas system over the last number of years. The town does a very good job of maintaining the natural gas utility and the water and wastewater stuff. There is not really much of a deficit on the natural gas side that I've seen in my experience working with the town. In the last 2 years, the town's undergone a fairly intensive upgrade of the communications and the monitoring on the natural gas system. So there isn't, in my line, unless there's a major line break or a major underground piping issue, I don't see it being unsustainable at all.
Thank you, Mr. Wiesa. Mr. Barba, followed by Ms. Grimson.
I think that the work that we're doing right now, it's good, it's sustainable, and again, that has to be one of the probably main priorities about maintenance and always keeping up to date on making sure that everything works. So at the long run, we don't come up with big projects at the end if something does happen. That's it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barba. Ms. Grimson, followed by Ms. May.
Hi, yes, to my knowledge, everything is running sustainably as of now, like mentioned before, when things are just making sure that things are running smoothly. This isn't a huge area of my knowledge, but definitely something I'd love to get into a bit more when elected. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Grimson. Ms. May, followed by Mr. Hanley.
Thank you so much. This is a phenomenal question because our utilities are actually one of the hidden gems that really set this community apart from other municipalities of our same size. Not only have we been able to provide a situation where our utilities are not only no longer tax supported, they're now tax supporting. So not 1 cent of your tax dollars goes to supporting the utilities in any way, shape, or form. And additionally, we're able to pay ourselves back as the town dividends from the profits made on these utilities to help keep our taxes low and affordable. If you know people who live in similar communities like Kalmar, I urge you to go and take a look at what they pay for their tax rate for the same size of home that we would pay here. We're approximately half. And the reason for that is because of our utilities. For the natural gas utilities specifically, unlike the wastewater treatment plant, we actually have a reserve set up specifically to fund any future requirements that that particular utility is going to require. As such, we have actually, since the wastewater treatment plant, set up reserves for all of our utilities to make sure that we are not going to be in that position again.
Thank you, Ms. May. Mr. Hanley, followed by Mr. Fish.
Thank you. Fantastic question. I think the town has demonstrated a very proactive attitude. I think the wastewater treatment was certainly one of the most difficult pills to swallow. And I think there were a lot of decisions that just require more discussion. But that is a standout and much different. I think the natural gas in particular has been a fantastic asset. It's lowered service costs at very critical times when the province was suffering from very difficult to pay power prices. We had some of the lowest natural gas prices in the province at its all-time peaks. And it does generate revenue for the town and reduces our taxes. So I think the town's done a great job with this so far.
Thank you, Mr. Hanley. Last on this question is Mr. Fish.
Thank you very much. This one is a great question as well, because, I definitely echo what Ms. May was talking about. This community has definitely prospered with our natural gas resource and a lot of our utilities. Again, when you look at other communities and what they're doing and how they're having to get their resources, again, talking to people, making sure that anybody who's anyone through my travels, move to Devon, move to Devon, move to Devon. We've got the best resources. We've got the best of everything that you can offer. So again, without going into the whole regurgitation of what everyone else is saying, we have an amazing resource here in this community.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fish. So for Group C, who will get the next question, we will do this also in reverse order, which means we go first with Pat Beulo, Chris Belke, Andre Grondin, Chad Griffith, Ben Gronberg, and Justin Porter. So the question for this group is, the town's study of the revitalization of the downtown core has been through many councils. As a council member, what are the steps you're going to take to move this forward for the next term? So I'll invite you, Mr. Beulo, to take first crack at this one.
All right. That's one of the things I actually want to see happen is give our town some character. So we need to make a downtown. We have to have something that's substantial. I look at something like at Pigeon Lake, the village there, make it for people when they come to enjoy our trails, whether it be bike trails or walking trails or snow or any of the trails, that they'll spend their money downtown. But we have to have that by maybe getting some smaller business in, coffee shops, sandwiches shops. We got to develop so it looks inviting. So that's my thought on it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Beulo. Mr. Belke, followed by Mr. Grondin.
Our downtown core is something that could stand for some improvement. I don't think there's any disagreement on that point. And it's something that councils in the past have looked at before. When I was on council, I was actually chair of a committee for downtown revitalization. I think the right approach we need to use to go forward is to treat it as a partnership. The town cannot create standards and make demands of what private business owners and property owners do and expect them to follow without any kind of other consideration. So we need to understand their perspective, their point of view. what their needs are as business owners and property owners, and work with them to try and get find the common ground so that they can achieve what they need and still achieve what we would like to see done in our vision for the downtown as a town council and as the community would like to see happen as well.
Thanks, Mr. Belke. Mr. Grondin, followed by Mr. Griffith. Mr. Grondin? Andre Grondin, are you there?
He was having some technical issues.
right.
We did promote him back up. I will ask to see if he can be unmuted. Just one moment.
All right, we will move on and come back to him if possible. Mr. Griffith, followed by Mr. Gronberg.
Thank you. Devon has so much to offer with the River Valley and some of our other amenities. We need to unify the ideas that are within town and harness the influx of tourists that come in for the River Valley and our various other resources. That way, a more coherent design will come from those discussions.
Thank you, Mr. Griffith. Mr. Gronberg, followed by Mr. Porter.
Yeah, excellent question. This has been something that as I've been going out door to door knocking, I've heard at the doorstep that people want our town to get a better downtown center. And people have talked about how there's no coffee shops to really go to. That if they compare it to Beaumont or Stony Plain, that we just don't have that same comparison. So that is something that I would like to work with. And I agree with Belke that we need to work with businesses. We need to talk with them because we can't just do it on our own. This isn't a project that we can just create on our own. Something that I really like that has been done in the last 18 months is seeing Homeroom Diner and Norma D's create patios. I think that we need to really continue to be inventive and kind of look at other options, because I think that's bringing business out into our main center, which is what we need. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gronberg. Mr. Porter was the last person to respond on this, and that's we'll go back to Mr. Grondin if possible.
Thank you.
Porter.
Thank you. Downtown vitalization is it's extremely important for this town, but I also think that Town of Devon Council has to walk the walk as well. It's hard, and it'd be a little frustrating as a business owner with an expectation to have a vitalization plan where they're the ones footing the bill. I think the Town of Devon's got to give them the space, opportunity, whether we create more events. It could capitalize on so many things, inclusivity, bringing the community together. Nothing, in my opinion, says better than Disneyland's lights and music, which would be a great atmosphere for that downtown core, possibly shutting it down on weekends for walking ability and giving people that attraction to want to be down there. Hopefully inviting the businesses to come out onto the street and capitalize on this themselves.
Thank you very much, Mr. Porter. We'll go back to Andre Grondin. Mr. Grondin, are you available to speak with us? Seeing not, we'll keep going and come back to you as you're able to join us. We go back to Group A now and back to the top of the order for, first of all, with Brian Bowles, then Anita Fisher, Tanya Hugh, Girk Denoa, and Kayla Fitzpatrick, sorry. For this, the question here, do you feel that there is an affordable housing issue in Devon? What ideas do you have to improve the offerings that the town currently has? Mr. Bowles, do you want to comment on that at all? You're muted, Mr. Bowles.
There we go. Unmuted?
There you go. You're good now.
Yeah, affordable housing. Actually, I think with the housing market in Devon, we are a little lower than what they are in Leduc and Edmonton. And in my knocking on doors, that seems to be the response. People came to Devon. Housing is a little less expensive. And of course, they've enjoyed the community. But when you talk about affordable housing, Leduc affordable housing does come into our community where housing is provided for people that can't afford, or make it more affordable as far as living in the housing. We should be doing more. and it will take some effort in working as the Leduc region. There's housing available in different communities, and Devon needs to find more affordable housing.
Thanks, Mr. Bowles. Next up is Ms. Fisher, followed by Ms. Hugh.
Okay, on this question, you can read it two ways. First, there's affordable housing, which is a subsidized or subsidization for families and seniors of modest income. And I think we have a great outstanding organization within the Leduc Foundation. They provide several options within our community. In speaking with residents from Discovery Place, I understand that there is becoming more of a need for affordable housing specific to seniors. The other aspect of this is housing affordability. And from talking with people at the doors, I understand that there is many new residents that have moved to Devon because our housing market provides a little bit less expensive opportunities or home options. So I think we're good on housing affordability. We need a few more of them for sure, but affordable housing is definitely something that we need to continue to address with our partners in.
Thanks, Ms. Fisher. Thank you for your time. Ms. Hugh, followed by Mr. Denoa.
Thank you. Yes, so we, along with the other candidates, Devon definitely has housing costs that are less than the region. That's what brings a lot of the families out here. Not to mention our taxes are lower and everything else. We do have some great relationships and are a part of Leduc Foundation. We have Madison Manor, which I'm not sure currently, but we have had vacancies, a larger amount of vacancies than what actually you would assume. And I think one of the issues with that is because we have no transportation. So I think with our pilot project coming effect here soon in regards to transportation to the city, I think that some of the vacancies at Madison Manor will be filled up, but we have Leduc Foundation that we can work with to increase that if needed. So thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Hugh. Mr. Denoa, followed by Ms. Fitzpatrick. Mr. Denoa.
Now, this isn't a true area of expertise for me, but one of the things, just as Devon has many unique things like the River Valley, the utilities and stuff like that, in a small town of 6,500 people, we have the unique housing market where you can get a $750,000 house, and same thing, you can get a $150,000 home as well. So we do have that unique aspect. There are a lot of new residents that are coming in, as I've spoken to probably about 15 or 20 houses that have just moved in here the recent, probably less than a year. As far as opportunity goes to grow, it all depends what land is designated for more housing, and how comfortable would it be for Devon to grow towards that. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Noah. Ms. Fitzpatrick, you're up.
There we go.
There you go.
Yeah, so this isn't my area of expertise, but it's something I'm willing to learn about. I know that a lot of people do move here because of the affordable housing. In talking to people when I door knocked, they like that the location and that we are close to all the amenities needed, and that we have the amenities needed in town, like grocery stores and gas. And they moved to Devon because it was significantly cheaper than Edmonton, Beaumont, Leduc, Spruce Grove, etc.
Okay, thank you very much for answering that question. We'll move on now to the next group, which is Group B, which we're going to take from the top of the order again. Chris Fish, Mike Hanley, Stacey May, Serena Grimson, Eric Barba, and Andrew Wisa. The question for you is, how do you support Devon businesses? So Mr. Fish, we'll start with you for that one.
That's a really good question. It's also a tough question. As we've seen over the last few years, a lot of home-based business has been opening up in good numbers. So that's showing that people are thinking outside the box and are developing better ways to create business for themselves. As far as the current businesses that we have in this community, by showing them support as council, is working with our chamber and making sure that we have a very good collaborative working relationship. Again, we have to make sure that the businesses that we do have, there's further support, not only just from council itself, but it's also from the citizens that live here. It's easy to say that we're a bedroom community. It's easy to say that a lot of these individuals that live in this community also work outside of the community, and it's easy to shop when you're not in this community. In order to build business back, we need people to support what we currently have. And I think that's council's focus and always has been our focus to make sure that we can keep that business strong.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fish. Mr. Hanley, followed by Ms. May.
Devon continues to be a fantastic town to do business in, but that can certainly be improved. Growth is an essential element. Just getting a base where we have more businesses that benefit one another with synergies is a fantastic part of how that's going to continue. And I believe that turning the chamber into a full partner with council on a more regular basis, engaging them more, making sure that the businesses have a strong professional voice that council can rely on and use more often and more effectively is going to be an important part of creating better choices in the future and making sure that we are being guided effectively to help businesses as best we can.
Thank you, Mr. Hanley. Ms. May, followed by Ms. Grimson.
Thank you. So as a counselor, the biggest role we have here is support and infrastructure. So in support, our role is to support not only our chamber, because they are absolutely the leading indicator of the strength of your economic diversity and your business community, but also supporting our staff to empower our businesses to follow the policies and procedures that are in place to support them. For example, we have continually made measures to make it easier for home-based businesses and small businesses to get business licensing and the support that goes along with that, as well as continuing to reduce the cost of business licensing and never implementing a business tax. Another way is through infrastructure. Businesses need an opportunity and a space to develop. So if someone's trying to bring a new business to our community and we don't have any empty lots or any utilities and infrastructure to support the development of those businesses, it makes it very difficult for them to build in our community. As such, one of the great examples is SII 360. We worked really hard with them to make sure that they had what they needed to be able to build. And again, in the industrial development where the ball diamonds sit.
Thanks, Ms. May. Ms. Grimson, followed by Mr. Barba.
Hi, yeah, that's a great question. I think supporting of business really starts with us. I tend to try to shop as local as I do to a fault. I'm in the shops listening to the shop owners. I take my fitness classes, my Zoom classes for yoga, everything, even during COVID. Across the board, all I hear is not feeling support from the town. I feel like what we need is to work a bit more closely. The town needs to work a bit more closely to help support the businesses, feel like they're being helped and promoted. We need to help draw attention to the beautiful, wonderful shops that we have and not lose some of the big ticket shops that we're drawing people from out of town, bringing business into our town. Thanks.
Thanks, Ms. Grimson. Mr. Barba, followed by Mr. Wisa.
I think how we support or we should support our businesses, small businesses, would be by, again, everybody in town has to support your local businesses. That's how we're going to thrive. One big thing, though, that we're lacking and that I want to make sure that we try to come or push forward is more commercial, more, even attracting more commercial and more visitors into town. The only way that we can do that is by, no joke, but we have to bring in either hotel chains or something here in order for us to grow. We're growing, we want to grow. We need to facilitate that. So we need to actually have that into conversation in order. The more people we bring in, the better our small businesses will become, the better they will be on the long run, and we won't have businesses closing down like we're seeing right now. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Barba. Last up on this question is Mr. Wiesa.
Thanks for the question. Personally, I try and do all of my grocery shopping and all of my shopping in town. That's how I can support the businesses as a resident. On council, I think we need to work with our economic development person in administration and the Devon Chamber to make it easier to run and support and advertise businesses in the community. Just as a matter of fact, I was talking to Mr. Griffith yesterday at the meet and greet, and I didn't know that we had a hose and fitting place in town. And I think we need to work with the chamber and with EDC to advertise and get all of the known businesses in town out to the public so they're more well known, to get our residents to support it. With that, doing a downtown revitalization will allow us to hopefully have those visitors come in and spend money in our town. Right now, it seems like when most of the visitors come in down to the park, every time I've been down there, I see lots of coolers and they're bringing stuff in and they're not doing a lot of shopping in town. I think by
Thank you, Mr. Wiesa. Please wrap it up. Thank you for the comments. That wraps up this question. The next question we're going to move on to is for Group C from the top down. We'll hear from Justin Porter, Ben Gronberg, Chad Griffith, Andre Grondin, Chris Belke, and Pat Beulo. The question for you is, programming, resources, and advocacy for vulnerable citizens such as seniors, youth, or other marginalized groups is part of keeping a community healthy. What existing programs or services do you believe have been successful to date? What existing programs or services do you think could be evaluated and improved or canceled if not effective? Or alternately, what new types of programming do you think could help achieve this goal? That's the question. The biggest challenge for you, of course, is to keep that to within a minute. So good luck, ladies and gentlemen. The first person there who gets to try this is Justin Porter, please.
Thank you. I believe our FCSS department has done a fantastic job of this. They always seem to be coming up with new programs, adventures, events, and seniors are usually first and foremost in their thoughts. They've partnered up with organizations within the community. The Lions has been a phenomenal partner. Having singles night, Valentine's events, Christmas dinners for them. Anyone that's alone or vulnerable, if you will, has that ability to reach out with them. They put on many different events, not just for seniors, but yeah, I can't say enough about the FCS department, and this is extremely difficult to answer in 1 minute.
No doubt. Thank you, Mr. Porter. Mr. Gronberg, followed by Mr. Griffith.
Yeah, I have to agree that this is just a fantastic question. And also, I just cannot say good things about the FCSS as well. I've done some babysitting courses with the FCSS, and they have done some fantastic work there as working as one of the pool managers as well. We often were working closely with the FCSS and seeing how we could support our lower income families in Devon, and some of the ways where we were giving pool memberships to them for free. And it's just a way of making sure that everyone gets access to all of our services. I also want to do a shout out to the activity packages that were done this last year as well. I know they were really well used. I loved the model of some people got them for free, some people paid. And I think it's just it just shows the Devon spirit of helping everyone. And I love that.
Thank you, Mr. Gronberg. Mr. Griffith, followed by Mr. Grondin.
Thank you. As Ben and Justin have said, I believe there are some fantastic programs already in place within Devon. I do believe that communication to some of these groups needs to be improved so that everyone realizes that they are available to them. These groups all have great viewpoints. I think we need to increase our arts initiatives and programs for youth, as well as potentially music programs for them as well. So I think working together with all these groups is important to get their viewpoint.
Thank you, Mr. Griffith. Mr. Grondin, followed by Mr. Belke. Andre, can we hear you this time? Still got technical difficulties, I think. Mr. Belke, and we'll come back to Mr. Grondin again in a moment. Mr. Belke, followed by Mr. Beulo.
Okay, I'll start with a small repetition of things I've heard already. A lot of the work that the town has done in terms of community building and community connectivity has been very, very effective. And during the time of this campaign for this election, I've heard a lot of positive feedback and a lot of appreciation for those things that the town has been doing. Something else that I think is really worth mentioning in terms of those areas for diversity and inclusion and community connectivity are some of the programs that are being provided at the Devon Public Library as well. They've done some very good diversity programs and a lot of things that bring seniors and other people together and bring them out of their homes and bring them together into the community. So I think those are things that are done very, very well. In terms of going into the future, looking ahead, what we can do is I think the town needs to focus on 3 points. There's diversity, so everybody can feel inclusive and feel safe in their own community. We have to look at what we can do for the youth, and we have to look at the seniors as well and what we're able to do for them so they can all be active participants and feel safe in our community.
Thank you, Mr. Belke. Mr. Beulo.
Hi, yeah. I was just thinking what council I think we would have to do is and support our businesses in town. I know of one business, I won't say the name, and I'm sure there's several businesses that Christmas time they give free meals. They also do for Halloween, they give Halloween costumes away. To promote that with businesses, actually work with businesses to get people out for things. Also, that's why I believe that's why we could use a rec center. I mean, a running track could be a walking track in the wintertime for our elderly. So instead of walking on ice and slipping, also a place for our teenagers and our young people actually to actually do healthy workouts and healthy activities.
Thank you, Mr. Beulo. Mr. Grondin, are you able to join us? All right, we'll move back to Group A, and we'll do it this time from the bottom up if we can. Well, we can because I'm making the rules up. So this means we'll go with Kayla Fitzpatrick, Dirk Denoa, Tanya Hugh, Anita Fisher, and Brian Bowles. The question for you is one that actually just came in, and it's kind of related to the last question. So for those who are proposing new programs, increased communication, financial reviews, etc., what funding sources are you hoping to use to bring these about? Or what services are you willing to cut? So Ms. Fitzpatrick, if you want to take a first stab at that one.
Yeah, so I mean, if elected, I would like to ask for an interim budget. And then from there, the new council could work together as a team to try and reach these goals and find the funding from how the previous council budgeted. That's really all I can say about that one.
Thanks, Ms. Fitzpatrick. Mr. Denoa, followed by Mr. Hugh.
I think the biggest thing is just town council. We are always very active and we need to source out more funding. Where do we have the opportunity to provide more money to all these activities like the local group? Or where can we get the money from? Reach out to the provincial, the federal government. Is there other opportunities? So once on council, let's explore all the options that we have and just try to communicate and reach out to surrounding municipalities. Hey, what are you guys doing? Do you want to share some ideas with us? How can we get more funding to our local groups as well? All right, so that would be the best way to do it. And then just work as a team. That's ideally the best thing. So approach everything, go ahead it headstrong, and then let's get what we can.
Thank you very much. Ms. Hugh, followed by Ms. Fisher.
Hello, thank you very much. I'm not in favor of cutting services per se. I think a lot of the services that we have currently are well utilized. Our FCS department runs great programs and We have our Indigenous programming, which actually we end up getting a lot of grants. Mitch has been great about getting grants to run those programs. So that's a unique way to increase our programmings without increasing our cost. I think that we can do more by offering programs through our gyms. We have an excellent relationship with Black Gold. They actually allow us to use their facility. We just have to book it and work around it. We run that by a volunteer base. It's worked great with basketball, with pickleball, things like that. So if we can engage the community to volunteer, we have that facility to use, offering programs at a near nothing cost to the residents. I also think that we can help local groups with grants and applications to get money for them.
Thank you, Ms. Hugh. Ms. Fisher, followed by Mr. Bowles.
Hi, this is a great question. Again, I'm going to look to the community to identify needs that are required by residents. But I think the way to address this is looking for partners like our school board, utilizing our library. Of course, we have a great FCSS program. I would like to look for volunteers that would be interested in participating and developing new programs. Of course, you want to utilize your resources like the Lions and the Legion. Actually, I would like to reinstate, there used to be a group that was the interagency that brought all of these community groups together on a monthly or bi-monthly basis to discuss it. So I think when you get people sitting around the table together, that's when you really come up with some viable options and opportunities.
Thanks, Ms. Fisher. Mr. Bowles as the last response to this question. Are you muted, Mr. Bowles? There you go.
Sorry about that. There we go. Can you hear me?
Yep.
You know, I think existing, we have a scope of FCSS recreation programs, and the library presents a lot of programs. But we do need to look and see if there's further needs. But one area that's missed is there's, you know, single families out there that can't afford programs, and we need to continue to assist them so they can enroll in existing programs. Plus, if we want to expand them, there's lots of partners, you know, the ski club, the Lions Club, the senior centers, they could offer more programs. I think they would if we worked with them as partners. And one thing about seniors are a very resourceful group and a lot of talents that I'm sure amongst that group, there could be other programs where they could provide some leadership and help in the community. So bottom line is we do have a lot of programs. We could probably increase them, make them even better, and we need to partner. And there's always grant programs to start new initiatives.
Thanks, Mr. Bowles. Moving on then to our next group, we'll go from the bottom up on this one, which means Andrew Wisa, Eric Barba, Serena Grimson, Stacey May, Mike Hanley, and then Chris Fish. The question for you: several years have passed since the original rec center initiative, and both the location and amenities have changed. The original proposal only had 50% support of the community, and the current proposal is quite different. Is it time to re-engage the community on the rec center initiative before proceeding? Mr. Wisa, we'll give you first crack at that.
Perfect. That's a fantastic question. Yes, I do. As much as I do think we need a new rec center, we definitely do need to re-engage with the community to determine what the community actually wants and needs, and to gain their support. I also believe within the community groups and within the community, we can find other sources of funding to make the project go ahead. When we look at the ball diamonds, the old ball diamonds and the community center, my understanding is a lot of that money was raised, fundraised throughout the community. So yes, I do believe we need to re-engage with the community to work on the funding problems, as well as making sure the rec center is the best for the community. When I've been knocking on doors, I've heard a lot of people asking about a field house and other things to do lacrosse and soccer and stuff indoors in the winter. And this proposal doesn't allow for any of that. So yeah.
Thanks very much, Mr. Wisa. Mr. Barba, followed by Ms. Grimson.
I do believe we need to re-engage with our community. I know that the previous two plants, and I've actually attended some of those meetings. A lot of people, especially the people that I'm talking to now, they are for new recreational center, not only for kids and for kids with for hockey, for soccer, for many activities, but also for people our age and even seniors. They want a place to be able to walk around during the winter. They want to be able to actually go swimming. They want to be able to even use a gym. We don't have any of those facilities that are available for us. And I'm all for that rec center. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Barba. Ms. Grimson, followed by Ms. May.
Hi, yeah, that's a great question. Having some sort of facility is always a great idea, but it's something that we have to go back to the town with. Right now, with what we have planned for the facility, the sort of facelift we have versus the cost it'll bring to the taxpayers just doesn't seem feasible. We do need a better reworking, and that starts with the community and getting a better engagement out. It seems that the questionnaires that go out don't really hit a lot of people. It's time to figure out a different way how to get engaged and how we can get people more involved in showing what they want and what we're willing to pay for. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Grimson. Ms. May, followed by Mr. Hanley.
Thank you. So in terms of the rec center, the short answer is yes, we absolutely need to go back to the community. And one of the main reasons for that is we are incredibly fortunate here that we have some amazing, creative, and really community-minded people. Often we refer to them as community champions. With the first rec center proposal that came out, we took a lot of heat because it didn't include a pool. That was absolutely nailed down, drilled in. That was a #1 priority of the community in order to support a project of this magnitude. And they weren't wrong. Having an outdoor pool is an amazing opportunity every summer, but being able to enclose that and offer that service to our community year round saves a lot of people a lot of time spent on dangerous highways. So I fully support trying to enhance our current recreational infrastructure. However, that has to be done in such a way that it's balanced and affordable. What we currently have in front of us in terms of options is not affordable. So looking at taking out pieces doesn't work. We need to find more opportunities for money, and that can come from community funding and multiple different types of fundraising opportunities.
Thanks, Ms. May. Mr. Hanley, followed by Mr. Fish.
Another exciting question, and I think everybody's in agreement that we need to get back and get the public's voice behind this. I think we've seen some great proposals. We've seen a lot of great work go into this project, and I think we've heard a few minor negative comments that aren't necessarily all founded. And I think that as we engage with the community, we're going to find that support. Some of the major barriers I see, even in terms of funding, finding the sponsorship up front, getting the naming rights, getting those things ironed out from the stakeholders. When people reach out and get some of these problems solved before we go looking at them, would make a huge difference. And also to be able to just take timing into account. The town has made some major investments that are going to help balancing the tax base. Even those minor improvements, I think we're going to see some big shifts. And I think that when we look at what this is going to do for businesses, I hope we see other community user groups and beneficiaries that are willing to come forward and support this a little stronger than they have.
Thanks, Mr. Hanley. Mr. Fish is the last one to comment on this question.
Awesome, thank you. This one is a very good question. Again, community engagement is always the #1 priority when it comes to any type of facility of this size. Having a background in community services that I do, being in many recreation facilities, the key thing here is making sure we're developing the right facility for the community, not for group, but for community. Again, groups always have their access to a facility, but we also have to make sure that it is there for the community. As mentioned earlier, again, field houses are very sustainable within a community. Having a pool and arena is great. Having two arenas and a pool is fantastic. Making sure that we can include other groups such as our library, those types of infrastructure within that facility. But again, making sure we're putting the right facility in the community that's sustainable. I talk about sustainability within, it has to be sustainable, that this community walks in, is proud to walk into that facility.
Thanks, Mr. Fish. Our next question, and actually our last general question before we go into final comments, is for Group C, and we'll go in reverse order for this one as well. So Mr. Beulo, followed by Chris Belke, Andre Grondin, Chad Griffith, Bren Gronberg, and Justin Porter. The question for you is, tell me about what's different in Devon 4 years from now, because you're part of the next council. Mr. Beulo, do you want to tackle that?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that, again, everyone's spoken on communication. Absolutely. We need to communicate with all the residents, our businesses, make sure everyone's on board. You never get 100% compliance, but I mean, most people that you can on board, and we can move forward in a positive way. Definitely the rec center, I would love to see that. I want to see, I mean, done well. I mean, right now, obviously you can tell, I mean, we need to find more money, and we'll look at that. And make sure we get what we want. Also that we get people into the town. We get people using our businesses, taking advantage of our businesses, our downtown. We don't want to see our downtown give a different look and a different feel that people want to come.
Thanks very much, Mr. Beulo. Mr. Belke, followed by Mr. Grondin.
Well, anybody who's spoken to me during the campaign, or anybody who's taken the time to visit my website, won't find this answer a surprise. But what I think would be really important over this term of the upcoming term of council is that the council needs to work together as a team, collaboratively with the community, to establish a distinct, well-defined set of priorities. So the priorities need to include all of the services that we provide, all of the facilities that we currently have, and the infrastructure that we have, and the ongoing asset management costs of all of those things. Then you add into that mix the future development, the things that we want to build, whether that's a rec center that's been talked about here or something else. And then all of those things need to be prioritized from 1 to 100 or 1,000, however many things that we have there. Once you have that very clear set of priorities, it's a logical progression then to building the plans and filling out the strategies that we need to put those things into action. So we need to be able to take care of the stuff that we've got and plan for the stuff we want.
Thanks, Mr. Belke. We've lost Mr. Grondin for now. He may come back. So we'll go with Mr. Griffith, followed by Mr. Gronberg.
Thank you. I think over the next 4 years, what you'll see if I'm elected is more collaboration and teamwork from council, as well as bridging some gaps with our corporate citizens and also with other communities surrounding us that could offer support. Devon is a destination that brings a lot of vitality to the lives of surrounding cities, and we really need to harness that and bring more of that to the town.
Thanks, Mr. Griffith. Mr. Gronberg, followed by Mr. Porter.
Yeah, excellent question. If I were elected, something I really like to bring forward is making sure all groups feel heard. And in this case, I think youth representation is, really important, specifically ages 12 to 17, and then also my age group from 18 to 25. I think that voice has been kind of lost over the years. And something I would like to bring forward is having a youth council where we can reach out to our youth, hear their voices, where we can go and connect with the local youth experience on a seasonal basis, where we can connect with them and bring actual priorities that the town council is working on and bring it towards them. Our youth have voices, and I believe that we need to take a moment to hear them out just as much as we need to listen to the families and also our seniors. All of them count, and I also want everyone's voices to be heard. And I want true cooperation, and I want our businesses thriving. These are all main priorities for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Gronberg. That concludes the round robin of the questions that we had. We now have closing statements or final comments from all of the council candidates. Then we'll take a little bit of a break and come back with mayor candidates. So for those of you who are participating behind the scenes and have questions that you would like to provide or ask the mayoral candidates, please do let us know about that as well. I see that Mr. Grondin has popped back in here. Andre, can you hear us?
He's just asking for some authorities. Just one moment, please.
Okay, thank you. Andre, you there?
I am.
Hey,
Sorry,
there you
guys, I
go.
can hear you there. I've had a little bit of technical difficulties. I was watching there, and I did catch the last question, which was, what do you, how do you see Devon in 4 years if you were elected?
Right.
And sorry, can you hear me there, Ian?
Yeah, we got you. So tell me about what's different in Devon 4 years from now, because you're a member of the next council.
Yeah, so Ian, what I would see myself doing and how I would be able to contribute and would contribute is kind of reaching out to private businesses that are doing awesome things in Edmonton. There are a lot of independent restaurateurs and sort of like arts groups and people that are creating community atmosphere through their businesses and contributing that. So what I would hope to do is kind of reach out to these people and see how could we bring them to Devon and how could we get them, to bring their services and their amenities to town. I know there are a lot of amenities that a lot of our residents would like to see, and I think people would, could do very well in Devon if we are to create the, if we were to create the infrastructure, where people could open their businesses, they could own their buildings and their spaces, and grow their businesses as part of the community and contribute to the community, and the community contribute to them. So that's kind of what I would see in 4 years.
Thanks very much. So that now concludes the last of our question responses. When we started the initial comments, we went from top to bottom. We'll reverse the order for final comments and go from bottom to top. So with that in mind, we will actually go back to Group C again. And the first groups we'll hear from are Mr. Beulo, followed by Mr. Belke, Mr. Grondin, Mr. Griffith, Mr. Gronberg, and Mr. Porter. And then we'll move on from there. So Mr. Beulo, you've got a minute as some final comments if you like.
Yeah, hi. Yes, I think, you know what, I got to congratulate our current council. I know it's a lot of work and sometimes maybe not everyone is on board or maybe upset with you. You have some thick skin. I hope I can contribute to that if I am elected and work as well as all you councilors, current councilors have been doing. Again, I'm going to have a steep learning curve, but this won't be my first time I've done something new, and I've given it 100% each time I've went into something. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Beulo. Mr. Belke, followed by Mr. Grondin.
I would just like to take the minute that I've got to first of all thank everybody who's been tuning in and watching and listening to the forum. It's a great opportunity for us as candidates to be able to reach out and connect with this many people in one event. So thank you for tuning in and letting us speak. I know you all understand because of the number of candidates and the format that you've only heard a very small sample from each one of us. But I hope you've heard enough from me that maybe you're starting to get an understanding of what I can bring to the table and what I can bring to the council team and help improve, make our future a good future for the town. So if you haven't heard enough of me or heard enough from me and you want to learn more, please take the time to visit my website. I got a lot of information there. And and reach out. My contact information is also available, and I'll answer any questions that I can get from any of you. So thank you for your time, and I'm looking for your support.
Thanks, Mr. Belke. Mr. Grondin, followed by Mr. Griffith.
Yeah, so I mean, just in closing, I hope to be able to contribute to the next council, whether I'm elected or not. I'll be bugging you guys, kind of as much as possible. I know there are a lot of kind of groups and people outside of town that are looking to do business in Devon and that are hoping to move into Devon, and it's it will create a lot of opportunity and services for residents. We need the commercial tax growth. We need the the residential tax growth. For myself as well, I would love to see an indoor pool that I can take my kids and stuff. But first, we need to get our finances kind of under control, and we need to create an infrastructure where we can be open to businesses that are moving into town, and kind of create growth for everybody, and kind of get businesses into these vacant spaces around town and kind of continue to grow in a sustainable way that benefit all the residents, in town.
Thanks, Mr. Grondin. Mr. Griffith, followed by Mr. Gronberg.
I just want to take the opportunity to thank the Chamber for putting on this event, as well as all the attendees and the candidates for allowing me to speak in this public forum. As you can tell, or as I'm sure you can tell, this is like my first time doing this, so I apologize for stuttering, but I hope to earn your votes. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me directly. All my contact information is available through, I believe, the town website.
Thank you, Mr. Griffith. Mr. Gronberg, followed by Mr. Porter.
Yeah, I too want to thank everyone for being a part of this. If elected, some of my main priorities, just to kind of run through these again for you guys, is youth. I wanted to make their voices heard. I want Indigenous relations to continue to be a focus for the town. And small businesses must be front and center, of course. We love our small businesses. We want them to flourish. As well, seniors, we want to look for the future and we want to keep our seniors in this town. So looking at long-term care, low-income housing options for them as well. And lastly, recreation. We love our recreation. We love our trails. We love our parks. Continuing to look at how to expand those, how to work with Imperial Oil to gain access to the lands. And I'm so passionate about this town. Please reach out if you have any thoughts, ideas, or questions about anything I said today or anything other than that. And I love hearing what your vision is for the town of Devon as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Grunberg. Mr. Porter, followed by Mr. Wiesa.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all the panelists here, if you will. Everyone that's running and put your name forward, congratulations. My opinion, you guys are leaders in the community already, and I hope nobody disappears off the face of the earth after. You should all be proud and understand what you've done. We seem to have a kind of a common ground. Everyone wants to see the best for this community. There's so many opportunities in the future. I just hope to be a part of it. It's been an honor being here for 8 years already, and I'd love to have another shot for 4 more. So thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Porter. Mr. Wiesa, followed by Mr. Barba.
Thank you. First off, I want to thank the Chamber for hosting this forum and for all the other candidates for running. I do think we have a great diverse group of people, and whoever is elected on the 18th will serve the town well. For me, I hope if elected, I can be your voice on council and engage with you as the town in as many ways as possible to hear the most diverse possible voices to make Devon the best place for everyone in the community. If you want to contact me, all my information is on the town email. Give me a call, send me an email, and I would love to chat with you. Thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Wiesa. Mr. Barba, followed by Ms. Grimson.
Hi, I'd like to end by saying thank you to all the participants, to all the candidates. We're always trying to achieve what's best for the community. Again, if elected, I promise to work hard for you guys. I'm not shy on what I have to say on whether they like it or not. The main focus is to represent that community as a whole. And same thing, growth. This community, I've been in this community for over 24 years, and it's been a slow, steady, uphill battle to grow. So we want to change that. We want to make sure we take care of our families, and as well as the seniors. The kids are our future. So make sure that we work towards that. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Barba. Ms. Grimson, followed by Ms. May.
I just want to thank the Chamber for putting on such a great and well thought out forum for us all tonight. You guys did a really amazing job. On October 18th, you have the choice to decide who represents you and your voice at the table. There's such a wide variety of candidates, each with their own special talents to choose for a well-rounded table. I believe that there's an important space for me to be an ally for our citizens to help create a more inclusive and diverse community to make a welcome space for all to grow. I want to help make your Devon a reality, and I will be available to amplify your voices and shape our town into the beautiful place we all deserve. If you want to contact me, please feel free to reach out. My email is serenagrimson@gmail.com, and I look forward to your support. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Grimson. Ms. May, followed by Mr. Hanley.
Thank you so much for all of the work and participation that's gone into making this election. I think one of the best we've had in a long time. Secondly, obviously, I'm here to garner your support. I will absolutely ensure that I will continue to be the counselor who is not afraid to ask hard questions. I will hold each individual counselor and administration accountable. I believe that it's important to continue to foster our internal relationship with our stakeholders and residents. And it's also really important to continue to foster our relationships with our other partners in the region. I will always support community engagement. It's essential to our ability to create the town that you desire. We are here to represent you. So my main goal in terms of engagement is to get everybody aware of all of the different ways that you can reach us, that you can share your ideas and your complaints and your comments with us directly to make sure that you feel heard, have an opportunity to speak out and allow yourself to make your own decisions. So this Monday, or not this Monday, October 18th, when you go in to vote, please vote May on election day.
Thanks, Ms. May. Mr. Hanley, followed by Mr. Fish.
Been an absolute privilege to share this election with everybody present. It is an amazing group of people here and a very exciting future for Devon. In the past, I probably and myself maybe made the mistake of voting for a certain type of councillor, looking for certain attributes in both the mayor and the council. And I really have to invite the citizens. This is one of the most diverse groups I've seen before us. And it is so important that we end up with a council that combines experience and knowledge with youth, exuberance, maybe some ethnic diversity. Please give us a diverse council. You can have everything in this election. Please don't be afraid to vote for it. There is some fantastic diversity here, and it would be a terrible opportunity missed if you do not exploit that.
Thanks, Mr. Hanley. Mr. Fish, followed by Ms. Fitzpatrick.
Thank you. I too want to congratulate everyone here who has taken the courage to put their name forward. This is definitely a crew that has shared or showing a lot of passion. Again, you know, the last 4 years for me, I was in your seat 4 years ago, trying to fight for my position on council. And I believe with a lot of the projects that we have put forward these past 4 years that I continue to want to be a part of, want to see things grow. Again, being a member of this community for so long, actually working for the town for 25 plus years, seeing a lot of the projects that were being developed back then. So again, all I can do is ask for your support. Please allow me to continue another 4 years and make sure that a lot of what we're trying to build for a smarter, better Devon continues. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Fish. Ms. Fitzpatrick, followed by Mr. Denoa.
I appreciate all the advice given and concerns brought forward during the last few weeks while I knocked on doors and publicized my platform on social media. If elected, I intend to use the advice given and address the concerns that were raised. Thank you to everyone that's joined and participated tonight. And thank you to the fellow candidates who shared their platforms, giving me the opportunity to understand and learn more about your positions. Due to time constraints, I understand there may be more questions or concerns that have not been addressed. So please look for my Facebook group or send me an email. My promise to the residents of Devon, if elected, is devoting my time and my heart and doing what I can to continue to make Devon the small town community that we all love. On October 18th, I hope to win your support to vote Fitzpatrick.
Thanks, Ms. Fitzpatrick. Mr. Denoa, followed by Ms. Hugh.
Hello, Devon. There are going to be some areas that I'm not an expert at. And when I'm not an expert at something, guess what I do? I ask a lot of questions so I can be the expert, okay? I have been in town for 4 years, took the very first year to kind of settle into the community, and I was overwhelmed by the support and love that I got from everybody here in Devon. And as a thank you to Devon, I invested a lot of my time and finances in you. Now it is time for you to invest in me and get the maximum return on your investment towards GERC. I hope all citizens know that, hey, you can reach out to GERC and we can have a conversation about anything and everything. Take advantage of those advanced polling days. Let's break records on voting day. Make Devon proud. Vote GERC, put a check mark or an X right beside it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Denoa. Ms. Hugh, followed by Ms. Fisher.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight and for your support over the past 8 years. I hope that during our short time here tonight, you've been able to get a glimpse of who I am and what I believe in. I'm a passionate resident of Devon who has a vested interest in the future. I'm extremely accessible, and I make a point to get back to any resident who reaches out via email or phone or even just talking in the street. People would say I'm financially responsible. I'm always thinking of the impact of my decisions will make on the ratepayers. I'm diligent about getting all of the information and ensuring that I have as much information as possible before making any decision. I'm not afraid to stand up for what I believe in. You can find me in the community, either in a council capacity, as a mother, or a passionate resident who is committed to seeing Devon prosper. While I would love your support on October 18th, I hope you will get out and vote regardless. And I know Devon is going to be in good hands with these candidates. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Ms. Hugh. Ms. Fisher, followed by Mr. Bowles. You just muted yourself, Ms. Fisher. There we go.
There we go.
That's better.
I'd like to use my remaining time to touch on a few other areas that require council's attention, in my opinion. We need to engage our youth in directing the development and programming that meets their needs. We need to address seniors and affordable housing issues and requirements, promote expansion of awareness of the existing programs and supports that are available for seniors in housing, focus on enforcement, resources to address community issues and needs. It's really time to engage our residents and businesses in establishing a clear vision for how we as a community wish to grow now and into the future. Thank you for your time this evening. I look forward to continuing these discussions as I knock on your doors. And when it's time to vote, choose experience you can trust and vote for me, Anita Fisher.
Thanks, Ms. Fisher. Our last candidate for the evening is Mr. Bowles. You're muted, Mr. Bowles.
There we go, unmuted.
There we go.
You can hear me?
We can hear you.
First of all, just congratulations to everyone putting their name on the ballot, because it does take a lot of courage, and it's good to see all the new leaders. My wife and I have lived in Devon for over 30 years, and we raised our family here, and we'll be here for a long time. So we really want to see a vibrant community, and I really believe that if we're going to be vibrant, we got to grow. We got to find more people to come into town, more residents. We got to build our tax base so we can afford new facilities and services. I think I can do that as a counselor. My volunteer experience, it's proven my ability to put teams together and get things done, effective communicator, and I'm all for positive growth. So that's my volunteer side. My professional career gives me a lot of knowledge and experience in the municipal world, and that would be a very big advantage to be on council. So everyone out there, I just hope you'll that you do vote on October 18th, and I look for your vote for Brian Bowles for a strong, vibrant Devon council. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bowles. Thank you to all the candidates this evening. We again recognize that there's a large group of you there, so it was hard to get a whole lot of questions to a whole lot of people. And hopefully you got an opportunity to answer some of the questions. I do suspect there were some of you who were itching to ask some of the questions we didn't have a chance to ask you, and certainly I can understand that. We are going to take about a 5-minute break. During this time, we will ask the people who are council candidates to move back into becoming attendees. And our folks with the chamber who are IT people will be elevating the 4 people who are got their names on the ballot to run for mayor. And we will come back at that point. So we'll take a 5-minute break. By my clock, we're at just 7:59. We'll start at 8:05. Thank you so much to all members of council candidates for joining us this evening and for putting your names on the ballot. We'll come back at 8:05. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are rude.
Can I ask the last two remaining mayoral candidates to please put up your hand on the attendee list if you're there?
Hello? Mic check?
Hear you, Michael?
Yep. Michael, just checking.
Yep.
Oh, thank you for changing it to Jeff Craddock.
Not a problem, Mr. Craddock. Mr. Fairhead, are you online? Mr. McCormack, you're muted if you're trying to talk.
And I had to be muted at some point. Do we have all 4 mayoral candidates?
Mr. Fairhead has not identified himself if he is on here.
Okay, we're going to get going anyway. If Mr. Fairhead joins us, we will work as we go. Just as a bit of a reminder to those of you who are tuned in at the moment, that obviously some of the things we mentioned at the beginning, that the forum is being recorded. We've got speaking limits for the mayoral candidates. They are somewhat longer than the council candidates. We will be providing, I think it's 3 minutes for opening comments. And then 1 to 2 minutes probably for 2 minutes for closing comments and comments on the theme if you want that much. Other questions to note are the speaking order was determined by a random draw using random.org. For those of you who are watching, please submit questions. And if you'd like to direct them to an individual mayoral candidate, that's fine. If you would like to direct them generally, we will provide them generally as well. These questions can be submitted through the chat or the Q&A function on Zoom. As the questions come in, they will be themed to encourage a variety of topics. And just a couple of comments on the questions themselves, just a request that you avoid gotcha type questions and request that people be respectful of the candidates as they are here. So that is the general rules. Our speaking order was determined randomly and has been provided to the candidates. We will go in order of Ray Ralph, John Farhead, Michael Lavick, and Jeff Craddock as the current speaking order, and we'll go back and forth on those a little bit. We'll provide each mayoral candidate with 3 minutes to introduce themselves, and then we'll move on with the questions from the audience. We can repeat some of the questions that were provided already, but we can certainly ask some new ones as well. With that in mind, so we'd like to move ahead if we can to the mayoral candidates. Do you have any questions before we begin? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on with Mr. Ralph. You're up first. You got 3 minutes for your opening comment.
Thank you, Ian. Welcome to all those taking time to listen in the mayor candidate portion of the forum. I want to start by saying that I can assure you that the town of Devon finances are in good shape, which is contrary to what some people have been stating throughout this campaign. It is very easy to create unnecessary concern among the public by spreading misleading and even false information, as most residents don't generally follow what's happening in day-to-day operations of a community. The audited financial statements are public documents and are available on the town's website, which support my previous comments on our town's financial position. As for the tax stabilization reserve, this reserve does exist, and there's currently over $537,000 in this reserve. Council every year has made it a priority to find opportunities to reduce spending prior to the approval of the annual budgets without drawing from this reserve unless absolutely necessary. Not all of the town's debt is paid through property taxes. The commitment of $2.9 million for the new ball diamonds and other existing debt are funded through the annual property tax, which equates to 28.44% of our total debt. The remaining 71.6% of our debt is paid through utilities and local improvement taxes. The advantage of having our own utilities is that every user pays for these services, which is fair and equal. In 2010, the water treatment plant required upgrading to meet the new requirements set by the government. Council at that time had to borrow over $1 million to install the new membrane technology that would allow for the regulation compliance and future expansion of the system where required. In 2015-16, Council was informed that the existing wastewater plant had to be completely replaced. So Council made the decision to invest more than $29 million in construction of the new wastewater treatment facility. The town was successful in getting $14 million in provincial grants, but also had to borrow an additional $14 million to pay for the completion of this project. Our town reserves at the end of 2020 fiscal year were just over $8.6 million. The town has also completed the sale of one parcel in the new Derrick Drive subdivision, and will see construction starting before the end of this year. There are also 2 more sales that are currently in various stages of the process. Over the past 4 years, the town has seen a decrease in $18.2 million taxable assessment, but has continued to make sure that our residents and businesses have experienced some of the lowest tax increases in several years. Council has also maintained our utility rates for the past 3 years. These were all achieved by finding opportunities to reduce our operating costs and maintain and improve the services that the town offers. I'm extremely proud of the accomplishments of our council and looking forward to keeping the momentum going moving forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Ralph. Our next candidate for mayor is John Fairhead. Mr. Fairhead, you have 3 minutes. And you're muted right now. Mr. Fairhead, you're muted.
Got it?
There we go. Thank you.
There, miracles. Okay, I'm married to Sally. We have 2 children, 4 grandchildren, and I've lived in Devon since 2009. Since we arrived in Devon, I've been on the board of directors for the owners condominium 042-1795. I was on the town's Parks and Recreation Board. I've been on the Economic Development Board. I've been an assistant coach with the Devon Barons senior hockey team. I've been member of the Devon District Chamber of Commerce, and I served as president for a while. Prior to living in Devon, I lived in Edmonton and in Cold Lake. And all these communities, I was involved in many organizations, always ended up on the executive. When I was in Cold Lake, one of the things I did, I was deputy fire chief, and that included being the incident commander for all emergencies. So I had to be responsible for a lot of people and a lot of things. It's my desire to work with residents, businesses, storefront, home-based, and the industrial park to establish Devon as a place to stop, a place to shop, do business, a place to visit, and definitely a place that you would want to live. Our community requires a mayor with us to head a strong council to manage the affairs of Devon and to ensure that our town is able to thrive. I bring with me 34 years of experience with ATCO, and I've owned Fairhead and Associates since 2009. Fairhead and Associates, is my company, has worked with numerous large corporations, which has permitted me to become knowledgeable in many aspects of the business world. I have a strong business and negotiations background and a significant knowledge in alternative energies. As this strong background allows me to bring some business sense and knowledge with me in making good policies and sound business financial decisions. One of the first items of my to-do list is to have complete assessment of the town operations done, which will provide the new council with an understanding of how the town operates, where the town's spending their money, what we can do to improve the town, and finally determine how the council can best serve this community. And this does not mean that the town is not being run properly now. What it means is that the new council should have a very good in-depth knowledge of how the town operates. In the business world, board of directors communicates regularly with its basis, and that's its shareholders. We as a council, we've got the same as shareholders, and they're called the voters. We have to communicate with them on a regular basis. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Fairhead. Our third council or candidate for mayor is Michael Lavac. And I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong.
It's Levesque. That's
Levesque,
good.
thank you.
I'm Michael Levesque, and I'm running for mayor. Thank you for everyone who's out there who's watching and listening tonight. I would like to thank all other candidates who have come forward and put their name on the ballot. I'd also like to thank the Chamber for hosting the event this evening. And a special thanks to my wife and my family who support me. As some may know, I have dyslexia and I'm very nervous, so I'm using notes and I probably will make some stumbles. I've lived in Devon for over 15 years, and some of those years have not been easy. My kids have grown up here. I volunteered on the fire department, my kids' activities, and now the Lions. I was a counselor for 7 years, and in 2017, I ran for council, and I received the lowest number of votes. That was a difficult day. The results of the votes gave me time to think. Though I still was dedicated to Devon, my personal life was a shambles. I knew I had damaged relationships with my colleagues on council, and I was not at my best. I took time to focus on my family and my personal growth. It was not easy, but it was worth it. I started to feel better. I was promoted with my company, and early this year, I felt ready to represent our community again. Well, I knew I wanted to be a part of the council team. I took some time to decide if I was going to run for mayor. When I made that decision, I was very happy. During the years on council, I had roles of deputy mayor, and I learned the inner workings of council and how to work with administration and Municipal Government Act and how to run council meetings. It'll be a learning curve, but every mayor in history was once elected for their very first term. I'm ready for the challenge because I believe the town needs leadership that focuses on teamwork, communication, respect, a council that is effectively engages and represents the citizens. Our town needs focus on the seniors, the youth, and other groups by seeking more recreation and culture opportunities. We need to support growth by diligently evaluating and supporting the budget and making sure the decisions are financially feasible. We need our community advisory groups to help provide information to the citizens, the council, and all citizens and visitors feel welcome. Our council needs to be worked with administration so we're transparent and very accessible. Above all, makes Devon a better community. Consider voting Michael Levesque as mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Levesque. Our fourth candidate for mayor for Devon is Jeff Craddock, who has 3 minutes starting now.
Hi, thank you, Ann and guests. I appreciate it. My name is Jeff Craddock, and I'm running for mayor for the town of Devon because, like myself and lots of other people, we believe there's some problems with transparency and management of debt. And I'm sure you'll hear a lot of things about how much money we have. We probably won't hear how much we've borrowed out of reserves to take some of our projects forward. I served on between boards and council and mayor from 97 to 2007. And we had a very successful team. And I'm not gonna say that mine was, my part was exceptional, but I had a team that most people would die for. We were lucky that in about 2006, in the Real Estate Digest, town of Devon was the #1 town in Alberta to invest. By 2009 and ever since, we just don't make the list. My company, what I've done since then is in 2007, I basically had an environmental company and I've taken it north, and we were busy enough. There was no way that I could run after that. We retired, my wife and I both, in 2000. And the one thing I would say is necessarily having yourself and your wife retire at the same time is not always a good idea. But long story short, the hospital where she worked for the last 20 years went into a situation where we lost our emergency. And I realized that's a provincial issue, but I really thought our town could come forward and at least make some noise about it. I was fortunate enough to at least track down Mark, our MLA, and we didn't get a lot of response, but we did get some support from the AUMA, and they have a small board that they were looking at all the hospitals in the province. And if anybody made a difference, it was them and not necessarily myself. But being that I'd put enough work into it, I had people ask me if I would run for mayor during this time. And I have. So I spent about 3 or 4 months going through all the agendas, going back through the paperwork, studying the past budgets. And I realized that we have gone through a great deal of money in the last 3 or 4 years. And there's people that are worried about it. And if we have any inflation at all, the only way we can get through that is to increase our taxes. So that's why I'm running tonight. I'm not trying to do smoke and mirrors. I've been on council. It is not an easy job. And you know what? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Craddock. So we'll start getting on with some of the questions now. We have been receiving some questions from people who are watching, and we'll use some of those. And if we need to, we can go back to some of the questions that were asked to some of the council candidates as well. So with that in mind, and we'll start at the top again with Mr. Ralph, then Mr. Fairhead, Mr. Levesque, and Mr. Craddock. The first question is, what are your top priorities for the term? And you have a minute to say that, to suggest them. So Mr. Ralph, you're up a minute. Top priorities for the term.
Top priorities for the term, I guess my first one would be to try and find additional funding so that we can move ahead with a recreation complex. I believe that is going to be an economic driver for our community in the future. And I also believe that there's a strong desire for a recreation complex in the community. I have heard a lot that, we need to get more community feedback on that. And I believe that's something that we will have time to do so, because we have done a lot of community feedback or community consultation through bringing in outside consultants as well, and engineers that went through and sat down with all the user groups, and as well as any public groups there, anybody in the public that wanted to have these conversations with us when it came to the current or the rec complex we were looking at. The second one is to get go back to relooking at our downtown core. We need to spice up our downtown core to make it a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, and also to work with our businesses at that time. I think I'm running out of time here, so I will pack it in. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Ralph. Our next candidate is Mr. Fairhead. You've got a minute on the same topic.
Thank you very much. The town of Devon has to be able to be strong and able for the town to generate some tax money so we can be a sustainable operation. I'd like to see the businesses have somebody to go to and ask questions of. And one of the things maybe the town should consider is getting somebody who's a grant writer, get them on staff, talk to the businesses. When they see a grant that might be available to them, go to that business and help them write the grant so that they can get some money to improve their operation. We also should open up avenues for them to consider other forms of finances for their operations or their building, or to buy a building. And I think the town should be able to help the businesses improve so the town will improve. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Fairhead. Mr. Levesque, you've got a minute on the same topic.
Yes, what I would love to see is council effectively engages and represents the citizens. I would love to see a lot more advisory boards, a lot more communication with the citizens, so no one feels left behind. They all have a mode to give communication to us, and we have a more of effective communications.
Thank you, Mr. Levesque. Final comment on this to Mr. Craddock.
Thanks again. Long story short, on the rec center, I think if we would have done it better, if we would have allowed phasing, if we would have listened to some of the people that brought forward ideas, we maybe could have been in a better position to move forward. But the bottom line is we didn't have the money. And the way to get that is to bring the realtors and the builders that used to be in town together into a room and find out why we used to be at the top of the heap and we no longer are. That's where I would start, because the people will generate the kind of interest in order to have a rec center built. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Craddock. And this, so next question here, we'll go in reverse order. So Mr. Craddock, you get first shot at this one, followed by Mr. Levesque, Mr. Fairhead, and Mr. Ralph. The question here is, what makes the role of mayor unique from the role of councillors, other than the obvious things like chairing meetings and being more directly in touch with administration or the town manager? Mr. Craddock, I'll give you first shot at this one.
Oh, thank you. Well, long story short, I think it's important because the mayor represents the group. And so if you're going to go out and you're going to sign something, or you are on the understanding that basically you're taking that upon you and you have the right to do that with the support of council. The other thing you certainly control is the agenda, or at least you should, so that you're bringing forward the interests of the town, of the groups, of the committees to make sure they're heard. And it's not necessarily being led through administration.
Thank you very much. Mr. Levesque, do you have a comment on this?
Yes, I do. Besides the administration and being the head of the community, the mayor has to work with council and the citizens, especially the council and administration, and taking everyone's ideas and blending them together with the diversity this council has the potential of being, and coming up with a plan what is very solid and very well represented by all people on council and the citizens of the community.
Thank you, Mr. Levesque. Mr. Fairhead, your comment on this one.
The mayor is a negotiator, and the mayor is a leader, and the mayor is a listener. We're going to have 6 counselors that have never worked together before. We're going to have to all sit together, decide what agenda we would like to do, work as a unit and as a team, and present a very good front to the people so the people will have confidence in what the mayor and the council are doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ralph.
Yes, the mayor is a voice for council when it comes to external discussions, etc. If there's announcements made, the mayor is always the one that they're putting the name to. They're also the representative for council when it comes to external discussions, such as dealing with the senior levels of government, etc. But when it comes to making decisions at council, there's still only one vote. So they have no more power when it comes to voting and making decisions on council. They do have the influence to work with council and try and hopefully make sure that council, is working together as a team. But again, mayor is just the voice and representative of council on a whole. So that's as I say, we're just trying to make sure the team is going in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next topic now, next question now. And this is one of the questions that didn't get asked of the councillors. So I'm gonna use the moderator's discretion and use it here. We'll ask in the same order we did off the top. So this time we're gonna go with Mr. Ralph, Mr. Fairhead, Mr. Levesque, and Mr. Craddock. So Mr. Ralph, you get first shot at, what is the one main community issue that inspired you to run for council?
If I go back to when I first ran for council, it was because of some of the decisions that council had made at that time, such as bringing in photo radar. I was actually the president of Chamber of Commerce at that time, and we felt bringing in photo radar was going to damage the integrity and the reputation of our current of our town at that time. So that is when I decided to actually run for council. I wanted to make a difference, and there's only one way of making a difference, and that is being involved. And so this goes back to the year of 2003 when I first started to run for council, and I was on council from 2007 through 2013, and then back as mayor for the last 4 years. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Fairhead.
I guess I'm like most people. You think you can do a better job, and I look at what's happening in the town. I see a lot of very good things happening in the town, and I'd like to see a couple things changed. And I think I can bring to the table knowledge and expertise that can add value to the town and get a lot of people confident in the town and bring people here so we can be a very thriving community. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Mr. Levesque.
Yes, this time for my decision to run for council came from the feeling of lack of communication. No more boards, no more advisory boards of any type, from parks and recs to economic development, arts and culture. I felt a disconnect, and I've talked to a lot of other people in our community who felt that disconnect and felt they had no more voice and no more engagement abilities. And I wanted to make sure that was brought back, and so people have that connection with council and administration. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Mr. Craddock?
Some of the same reasons. I mean, you talk about transparency and growth and you look around, and largely I just thought I've got 30 years in this town and all my family, and I want to see something left, and I don't think we're heading in the right direction. When it came to photo radar, I was mayor when that came in, but we also had somebody that ran last time that said if they were in, they would take it out, and there's been no movement on it. So I think if you're going to run for mayor, you have to say what you mean and mean what you say.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Okay, the next question then, we'll go in reverse order. So Mr. Craddock, don't turn your microphone off too fast. Mr. Craddock, Mr. Levesque, Mr. Fairhead, Mr. Ralph, in that order. The question comes from one of the audience members. Question for mayoral candidates. This Zoom online forum has been great. Thank you, especially for recording and making it available for future viewing. If voted in as mayor, do you see and support more of online streaming events that reach out to Devon residents happening? How about town hall forums? Do you have any out-of-the-box ideas to increase community involvement? Mr. Craddock, do you want to take a stab at that one?
You know, I will take a stab at that one. On the door-to-door, and there's been a lot of it, I've crossed about 2,000 thresholds already. And it's one of those things where a lot of people are asking, especially the climate we're in, they want to be able to feel safe. They want to be able to watch, but they want to be able to learn what's going on. And if we're going to honestly run in transparency, then having this available for all our events, I think makes sense. It also allows, if someone can't make a meeting, whether it be mayor or council, they have the ability to tap in and be able to be in attendance when it's important to do so.
Thank you very much. Mr. Levesque?
Yes, Zoom is kind of a different way, and a lot of us have started to get used to doing the Zoom meetings, as well as I think it's a great way to bring forth the council to everyone. I've actually enjoyed this council doing their Zoom meetings during the pandemic. I have had a job where I had to go out of town for a while, and it was a great opportunity for me to watch Ray Ralph actually conduct a meeting and do a very great job. And it gave me an opportunity to see how a council can run on Zoom.
Thank you. Mr. Fairhead?
I think Zoom is a super tool, very good, but it has its limitations. If you want to see what's happening at a meeting and you're watching it on camera, you're going to see one person, you're going to see one individual. You're not going to be able to see what is happening in the meeting or in the surroundings. In the meetings that I've been doing, I found that Zoom is very limiting in what it will allow you to see and to understand with the whole happening of a meeting. If there's a number of people, you're not going to see the other people, how they're acting, how they're responding to the questions. Zoom is a good tool. I think it's great. I use it a lot. I've talked to people in Dubai and I've talked to people in Japan. Different time zones, but it sure beats traveling. But to see the personal and understand how people act, you have to do a lot in person, but use Zoom as a tool if you can't. Thanks.
Thanks. Mr. Ralph?
Zoom is a great tool, and the pandemic has made us change the way we hold meetings, and we have meetings with everybody. We try and do things on a day-to-day basis. But you know, in-person meetings is far better when you want to try and understand what's happening. But I believe that we need to continue using Zoom or other means that we can communicate what our meetings and other things such as town halls and everything, so everybody can participate that has, you know, or opportunities to do so. So I think it's a great add-on. It isn't a permanent or isn't the be all end all, but it is definitely a great add-on to get to more people. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Ralph. We'll reverse the order again and go with you first, Mr. Ralph, followed by Mr. Fairhead, Levesque, and Craddock on this question. Council is a governance body. How will you make sure the council sticks to governance and stays out of management or service delivery? Mr. Ralph, go to you with that one.
That's a difficult one because especially when we got a new council coming on, one of the first things that we need to do with any new council, even to a refresher from councillors that are coming back, is make sure that they understand the difference between governance and operations. We are mandated by the municipal government to focus on governance, not on operations, which is how the town operates. As a council, we have one employee, that's the CAO. All the other employees in the town work for the CAO. And so when we're making decisions, it's based on what governance means, not what the daily operations, what the person in the truck is doing when he's driving down the road, or how many people are digging a hole or something. So that's something that people need to understand, is we are not there to run the operations. We are there to set governance and set direction. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Ralph. Mr. Fairhead.
Governance is quite a lot like in a business. You get a board of directors or a council, and you end up coming up with policies and procedures, and that's the governance that's required that you give to your administration to point to the direction you would like to go, and administration would then go investigate, determine whether or not your requests can be done, and if they can come back to you. Your job is to govern. It is not to be an active day-to-day participant in the operations of anything, whether it's a community or business. And I think governance is very important, but as Ray says, you have to make sure you understand it and abide by the rules. Thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Fairhead. Mr. Levesque.
Yes, I have to agree. The council only has one employee, the Chief Administration Officer, the CAO. It sometimes gets difficult because you want to get involved, but council only has 3 areas of priority. We deal with the money in the budget, we deal with policies and bylaws. That is where our governance stays. If we don't like something or want to change something, we have to do it within our mechanisms, what were provided to us through the policies. And that's how we do changes on administration areas.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Craddock.
Thanks. You know what? Absolutely, everybody's nailed it. I mean, governance is the absolute key. The problem that I've seen is that you have to know it. The only way you're going to know your governance as mayor and council is actually if you have a policy review committee that is active. My understanding from everything that I've read back through over the last few years is there's very limited exposure to what the training is and the information that goes towards the counselors so they know exactly what the governance is. And it's one thing to govern, you kind of need to know what that says before you start heading down that road. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Craddock. A little bit of a break from tradition here. We have a question that is actually directed to Mr. Ralph. However, I'll let the other 3 candidates respond to it after that too, if that's okay. Mr. Ralph, in the last election, you ran on a similar platform to what you're currently running on. Do you think you've fulfilled your promise to be transparent and open? And do you regret previous comments you've made to the community in regards to, quote, "you are not my boss"? There is more to it, but I think I'll just stop it there and let you comment on that, Mr. Ralph, and then if any of the others want to, they may.
I believe by that I have been upfront, honest, and transparent in everything that I've done. And if we're going back to that comment, that comes from a comment that was yelled and screamed at me in my face from somebody that was 2 feet away from me, telling me that I had no right to make any decisions. And if I wasn't going to listen to him, basically I said, "You aren't my boss. My boss is the community. It's all the residents, not just one individual that's standing 2 feet into my face and yelling and screaming at me." Sorry, but that's where this question is coming from. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Fairhead, do you want to comment at all?
I don't believe that's in my realm.
Okay, Mr. Levesque, I'll give you a chance if you want to.
No, so I'm going to leave that one.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Craddock.
Yeah, I do have. I've met with a whole bunch of people. I've met with several groups, and the conversation always leads to, is the dog wagging the tail or the tail wagging the dog? And I think it's something that is a perception that's out in the community, and I think it's for Ray to address. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. We'll go back to normal now, and Mr. Craddock, we're going to start with you again. And then Mr. Levesque, Fairhead, and Ralph. Can you give me an example of an area where you think the town can find efficiencies to free up finances we can either use for improved programs or for lowering our debt? Mr. Craddock.
Yeah, that's a tough one, because when it comes to a community, you're normally looking at a situation of raising taxes or cutting supportive. And that's a tough one, because I don't know necessarily how to jump right in. I mean, there's people that will tell you we have too much staff. I have nothing to support that currently. But I believe if we were to take a look at some of the money that's being spent, maybe there is financial cushions that could come back in and be used for tax support and to make sure that we can offset it. Without being in there, that's a tough question.
Thank you very much. Mr. Levesque?
That is actually a tough question, but before I look at cutting services or raising taxes and all this, you got to look at yourself as a leader. And the honorarium what the mayor presently makes of over $4,000 is a very steep amount of money. I believe it should be cut in half to $2,000. That is the very first thing as a leader. Before you take money away from the people, you should actually look at yourself and see how you can cut wages and benefit that way.
Thank you very much. Mr. Fairhead?
If you're going to make cuts, it's great to be able to say how you're going to do it. If you don't know the facts and figures behind your operation, you're unable to make any decision whether you make cuts or whether you have to add money into the system. So until the person knows all about what's happening, knows the ins and outs, it's going to be very, very difficult to say, I can make a cut, because without the knowledge, you're saying something without a basis behind you, and that'll get you in a lot of trouble. Thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Fairhead. Mr. Ralph.
Yeah, that's a real difficult question. Every year we do an annual budget, and that's not something that we just say, okay, this is how much money we're going to spend. We go line by line, and we do zero-based budgeting so that we could know when where we're spending the money, and if there's opportunities to possibly reduce it. So again, that's something that we do on an annual basis. We dig down in the details, right into the nitty-gritty, into the grass on where we're spending the money and how we're spending the money. And that's how we make a decision if there is opportunities to reduce it. So that is, again, that is something we do every year when it comes to annual budgeting. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ralph. Our next question is a much shorter one. I'm not sure the answers are going to be much shorter. How do you plan to bring more small business to our town? Mr. Ralph, we're going to start with you, then Mr. Fairhead, Levesque, and Craddock.
Well, council is already starting on that, on a direction to bring new small businesses and businesses to town. When you look at what we're doing with the Derrick Drive subdivision, the new development we're doing in there, you know, that's us. We're going to have 7 lots, or we've already sold 1, and we're working on 2, but there's going to be 7 lots, which brings an opportunity for new business to come to town. So that is one of the things that we felt is needed, is we need to have developable land so that we could draw a new business into town. So we're already taking that step. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Fairhead.
If you're going to get new businesses in town, there has to be something to drive them to come to town. A lot of home bases love to get going and would like to go storefront, but it's difficult for them if they don't have the volume of people needed to be able to walk through the door and make a business viable. The town has to do a lot of work to be able to show the people in the surrounding area, whether it's Edmonton or the rural communities, that Devon's got something that they would like to have. And we're going to have to do a lot of work to be able to get to that point, so people will come here, stay, visit, spend some money. And we have to work with the businesses that are here now to make them better and more profitable.
Thank you. Mr. Levesque?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. I wouldn't pretend I'm an expert in all areas. The truth is, none of us are. I am not very knowledgeable on how to bring businesses to the community, but we do have a group, the chambers. They have knowledge, they are connected to businesses, and they do want to promote business growth. I personally would want to go to the chamber and help them to bring in these businesses.
Thank you. Mr. Craddock.
You know, it's interesting. We always talk about how do we bring them in. I came across a group going door to door that has over 40 small businesses in a group. They keep it all to themselves. They even have their own website. And they do that because they don't feel they're being very well supported outside of that group. If we're going to have people basically expand and come into town, where are the people? Where are the housing? Where's the growth to make that something that's going to be viable? You can start a business, but how much do you want to invest in that business on the hopes that it's going to work? We have to have a better base for that to happen. And when it comes to the property out in there, I'm hoping our industrial sells quickly, because my understanding there's growth coming around us that would make that difficult. Thank you.
Thanks very much. We're going to start again with you, Mr. Craddock, and then go to Mr. Levesque, Fairhead, and Ralph. This is our last round robin type question. As mayor, I believe they should be a collaborative leader and not only promote themselves and use their voice to negate other members to make themselves seem better. If you are voted mayor, what kind of leader are you going to be? Mr. Craddock, to you.
I can only tell you from history. Like I say, I sat on a council where, honestly, and I'm not even joking here, everybody on the council was sharper than I was. I basically pulled ideas from them. We went forward together. We would have meetings that I swear somebody was going to get punched. And when it was over, we all supported each other. We went forward together, and sometimes we went for a beer. I think what a leader has to do is be able to absorb those ideas. I don't think you polarize somebody because you don't agree and have 36-1 votes, that kind of thing, just because you believe they're not in your corner. And so, yeah, I've done that before, and I would do it again.
Thank you very much. Mr. Levesque.
A leader. Well, at the work site, I'm typically around other foremans. We're making decisions on multi-million-dollar projects, and we have to work together. And a lot of times, everyone wants to have a certain area. They want to work over this area, and there's a lot of times clashing. So I have to work as the general. We have to work together with these different trades so the project moves forward. It takes a lot of times negotiating, working with them, and end of the day, they all see the same project to be done, and you have to work with every.
I think we've lost your audio there, Mr. Levesque. You're muted. Mr. Levesque, can you unmute yourself? You're muted. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I apologize for that. I disappeared somewhere along the line. Mr. Fairhead, to go with you.
To be a leader, first of all, you have to understand what the questions are and what's going to have to happen at a council meeting. Then you're going to have to make sure that the people that are part of that council are going to be able to understand what the requirements are, make sure they have enough background information to be able to make an educated decision, and work with everybody so that it's not a bunch of individuals that present themselves as individuals, but a group of people that act as a team. And when you're at a council meeting, you come forth as a team. So the people that are watching you and dealing with the issues that you are, they're going to have some confidence in you because the mayor's leading a team and the team is acting like a team. And the stronger the team, the stronger the decisions, and the better people will appreciate your work. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Fairhead. Mr. Ralph.
Being a leader is someone that listens to people, not comes in there and has their minds made up on exactly everything that they want to see or whatever they want. You've got to listen to everybody and work together as a team. You've got to, as I say, when I hold a council meeting, we're having discussions on any topic. I let all the councillors have their say, have their multiple says. And once I've heard basically the comments from everybody, then I will say my piece. But you know, you've got to be able to listen to everybody and listen to what they think and be able to work and make a decision. When it comes to the end of it, it's got to be a decision that the majority of council will support and move forward with. So again, big part of being a leader is listening. Thanks.
Thanks very much. Ladies and gentlemen and candidates, we've come to the end of the question and answer portion of the Mayoral Candidates Forum. I will now ask the candidates for a final closing statement if they want for up to 2 minutes. And since we went in the top to bottom order for the start, we'll go in reverse order for the finish, which means final comments will be Mr. Craddock, Mr. Levesque, Mr. Fairhead, and Mr. Ralph. Mr. Craddock, do you have any final comments?
I want to say thank you. This is not easy. I watched the earlier one. You're earning your money, whatever that might be. And I just, again, want to thank you and the guests that are listening. I've been in Ray's position. It is not an easy position to be in. Even when you think you're doing right, there's 50 people will tell you you're not. So my heart goes out to anybody who throws their hat in the ring to run for this position. And I really thank you guys for doing that. And Ray, I hope everything works out. And kudos to everybody who's here tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Craddock. Mr. Levesque, final comments to you.
Yes, I want to thank everyone for participating on this. It's turned out very effective. As I already mentioned, I've done volunteering for this community. I've taken time to do a personal growth and refocus my dedication to my family and Devon. I believe my previous experience on council has given me the ability to be mayor, and I've learned how to do budget processing, work with administration, and the knowledge with the Alberta Government Act. And I understand our regional partners, which gives me a good feeling to be mayor. Obviously, I can tell you that I'm not a polished politician and I don't know all the answers for everything, and I won't pretend to. I know it's important to me to grow responsibility, not at the expenses of the taxpayers, focus on teamwork, both with council and with the residents, make sure all citizens and visitors feel safe, welcome in our community. Our council and administration must be transparent and very approachable. I'm unpolished, but I'm sincere. And I don't know everything, but I want to learn more. I've made mistakes and I know I can do better and I will do better. Call me if you have any questions or concerns. My information's on the website and I did send out all my brochures. I'd love to give you the chance to gain your support for me. Consider voting Michael Levesque for mayor.
Thanks, Mr. Levesque. Mr. Fairhead, your last comments.
First of all, Ian, you did very well. Chamber, thank you. Melanie at the town, great job. When this was first advertised, I had reservations. I watched the first 2 hours and it went really quite smoothly. The setup was good. The format was good. Everybody played nice, and it's really good to see that that has happened. Now, I believe my background, which is in business and real life, has provided me with the knowledge and ability to be a mayor. Bring a group of people together as a team, work strong, and do what's best for the community. A couple of years back, before COVID, when I was president of the chamber, we had breakfast meetings for the businesses. This is really, really an excellent way to communicate and learn what others are doing and what the flavor or what was happening in the community. I think something to that effect, I'm not saying that there's going to be a mayor breakfast all the time, but I'd like to see mayor type meetings open to everybody so they can come. We can discuss what's happening with the community and show the community that we're working with them, and then listen to them and see what they want. I believe the community is stronger when we all work together for the good of the community. That means we as a town and a council have to make good communications with all of our citizens so they have some confidence in who we are. Thank you.
Thank you much, Mr. Fairhead. Final comment to you, Mr. Ralph. You're muted, Mr. Ralph.
Sorry, I had to change my screen. I apologize for that. Just bear with me here for a minute. Yeah, there we go. Okay, thank you. So in summary, over the next 4 years, my focus will be on finding opportunities to increase our light industrial and commercial assessment so that our assessment base for the residential versus commercial moves closer to council's goal of an 80-20 split. Also, a continued focus on a strong financial management and to secure additional funding for the proposed recreation complex. Over the past 3 years, council has also approved the additional 3.7 kilometers of solar lighting to our trail system, as well as solar lighting at the cemetery and dog park, and this annual program needs to continue. We also improved our emergency services through the addition of 2 full-time firefighters and 1 additional RCMP officer to bring our complement to 8 officers in this past term. This has allowed for an increase in hourly coverage for our RCMP. Devon has also seen a 20% decrease in property crimes from April 2020 to June 2021. I would also like council to establish a youth advisory task force and a renewed focus on our downtown core through the implementation of an area redevelopment plan. As a community, we must continue our path of true reconciliation with the First Nations and Métis peoples. It is also extremely important for our town to be a welcoming and inclusive community where all our residents can feel safe, respected, and comfortable in being themselves and expressing all aspects of their identities. I would like to thank you, Ian and Melanie, as well as thank the Devon Chamber of Commerce, as well as all the other people running for mayor and for council. It's quite an investment of your time, and it's really appreciated to see this many people running. So again, thank you for holding this event. And on October 18th, please vote Ray Ralph for mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ralph, and to your other 3 colleagues as well. This essentially wraps up our forum for the Devon Chamber of Commerce and the town of Devon. Just a few final comments here. First of all, just as a personal prerogative, the first book I wrote is called Who's Driving the Grader and Other Governance Questions. And it's about the difference between governance and administration. So I was fascinated with your answers. The second book I've written is about the 25 aptitudes of the best functioning mayors. It's due out this winter. And so hearing your comments today was quite interesting personally for me as well. I would like to say thank you to you, the four of you who are standing for the office of mayor in Devon, to your 17 colleagues who are standing for the office of council member as well. I'd also like to pass on my thanks to both the town of Devon and the Devon Chamber for pulling this together, making the best of a bad situation with COVID. And it's gratifying that a few of you had noted that it actually worked fairly well in a virtual environment. It's kind of the best plan B available. Some other things too are, I would direct the participant or the viewers to the town website for contact information for all of the candidates and information on voting on several of the candidates have noted on October the 18th. Advanced voting begins on October the 6th and continues on the 13, 14, and 16, though that information is also on the town's website. So with that, ladies and gentlemen and candidates, I hope the rest of the campaign goes very well. Get out and vote on the 18th and exercise your democratic right. And on behalf of the chamber and the town, thank you very much and have an enjoyable evening. Good night all.